So, good morning and welcome to the Inspiring Careers Shaping the Future Plymouth online career event. My name is Anthony Jimman. I'm the founder of Like to Be, Plymouth born and bred. My background, I've had an interesting career, going from a little bit of time in the armed forces, then in the adventure tourism world, and then going into the social enterprise and the entrepreneurial world as well. And I'm delighted to be working with Plymouth City Council, Chamber of Commerce, and City Bus to provide with you this event for today. And I'd like to introduce Alexis, who will be doing all of our presentations today. So Alexis, over to you.
Thank you very much, Anthony. So I'm Alexis Bowwalter. I am a journalist and I'm a friend of Anthony's. He's roped me in today. So I think that he's roped me in because I'm friendly, I'm accessible, I'm really curious about people. I like asking people questions. And also I've had quite an eclectic mix of things that I've done in my career as well. Not only have I worked in newsrooms for newspapers and for telly, but also I've done lots of sort of campaigning outside of that and set up my own business and set up a couple of my own CICs. You'll hear more about those later. But also I run Southwest Women in Business Networking, which used to be just Plymouth Women in Business Networking. So I know about the power of communication, collaboration, all those kind of nice things. And also I do remember what it was like to be unemployed. I remember what it was like to be young and wondering what I was going to do with my career. So I think that maybe that's why Anthony has roped me in, not least because I never stop talking. So he's going to stop me talking now.
So between the two of us and all of the people that we're going to be interviewing over the next few hours, we're looking to share our stories to our community, bring that community together on today's event. We've got lots happening. We've got there's numerous different career zones where we have over 50 employers and providers from across the city who have all got their own, I suppose, virtual booths, and they've produced some amazing video content as well about different career opportunities. We have a panel of career advisors who are available to answer your questions through our forums, and in actual fact as well, all of the employers are available to answer questions as well. So and we even have some workshop material taking place and some live workshops as well that you can sign up to at certain times throughout the course of the day. One of the best things about being digital is this event isn't over just because today finishes with. This is accessible at any time. So if you've got friends, family who are currently looking for work or thinking about a career change, or maybe you're logging in, you're a student, you're thinking about the summer, you're thinking about leaving education, we know that this is a difficult time. We know that. So everyone today has come together to help share our knowledge, to help you find your career passion, your job passion, whatever it might be, and are willing to help engage with you. So make use of the day, join the network. Crucially as well, you can follow the employers and the providers that you like, and you can get the latest updates from their profiles in the weeks, days, months to come. Yep. So really enjoy the day. This is a new, innovative way of connecting the world of work from across Plymouth and the Southwest and the region for you to engage with. So enjoy.
Yeah, I think I'd add to that as well, because there is so much exciting stuff coming up. You're gonna hopefully see lots of people who you might feel that you can engage with, lots of people who excite you or maybe touch with some of the things that you're thinking about already. You might find that you can see something that you do want to do. But even if you don't, just remember that there are lots and lots of people out here who are friendly. They're really easy to talk to. They will help you on your journey into work or into changing a career. And I guess that if we are going to talk about the journey of today, probably the best person to start with is Plymouth City Bus. So, Carolyn, City Bus, you join us there. Thank you very much indeed. The purpose of this is really to talk about guidance and advice for young people and people trying to get into the world of work. And you, of course, are one of the biggest employers in Plymouth. How have things changed for you in the last year?
I would say the way things have changed is one of the big things that's changed for us is actually how we look after our employees and how we recognise that actually the outside world will always impact on how they work. So for us, bringing people into the business, what we've really recognised is that amount of wellbeing support that we need to give people as they come in. So for us, we've seen huge changes in terms of the passenger numbers that we have, but we've also seen huge changes in our expectations of our passengers as well. So the key for us is that we're looking for people who really understand customer service. So we're looking for people who can really interact well with members of the public, that can understand and have empathy with people, because the world is a little bit different. Using a bus 2 years ago was just something you did. You didn't think about it, you just got on a bus. Now people have to think about whether they want to get on a bus, and they want to know that they're going to be safe on a bus. So for us, it's about safety and well-being. That's the big thing that's changed for us.
Talk to me a little bit about City Bus. I'm not sure that everybody realises what a big organisation you are and how many people you employ and what the career opportunities are within that.
Okay. Well, we've now grown to just over 800 employees because we were successful at the beginning of 2020 in securing a contract with the whole of Cornwall. So we now have all the tendered services in Cornwall. So we cover bus services from Land's End through to Plymouth. So a number of our Plymouth drivers will drive through into Cornwall as well as working around the city. And we have depots right down as far as Penzance. So we are a significantly sized employer, which the opportunities that have come with that is supervisory opportunities. We've got new inspectors, particularly in Cornwall. We've got new mentors. So the opportunities that some of our drivers have been looking for quite a long time have suddenly become a reality. And the really exciting thing for me is that some of our managers in Cornwall are relatively young managers. So they have actually jumped through the ranks fairly quickly by getting the qualifications that we're looking for in transport, and demonstrating that actually this is not a business that's just full of older people. It's a business where actually young people can really thrive. And yeah, it's an absolute delight to me to be able to see that. And I think the other thing for me that I've really noticed is that some people think they can't progress in an organisation, maybe because of their educational background, or maybe because they've got some form of neurodiversity, for example, dyslexia. This is an industry where actually we can accommodate all of those differences, and we really enjoy the fact that we can, and we work really hard to make sure that we can support people in the environment if that's what they really want, and if they show the right attributes and characteristics for us, which is around, flexibility and customer service and community mindedness. If we've got that in somebody, we can teach the rest, and we're very happy to do so.
It's really interesting listening to you saying that, Carolyn, because I think, lots of people might think that going into an organisation like City Bus, the only role would be as a bus driver, maybe, and that you need to be older to do that. You need to have certain qualifications. You need to, have a certain number of years driving under your belt. And I imagine if you're a younger person, you're in your teens, your early 20s, you might think that was a challenge to getting into your business.
Yeah. I can bust that myth for you.
I like that. You bust that myth for me. You go for it.
Yeah. So you have to have your car driving licence for a year before you can apply for your bus licence. So we can take people on from the age of 18.
Wow.
Probably 19 is more realistic, but we have had 18-year-olds driving for us, and we provide the training. So we provide, well in excess of £3,000 worth of training in order to enable people to get their bus licence. So all they need to come to us with is a full driving licence they've had for at least a year. Then we put them through a medical. We support them through their theory test, and then we deliver the practical bus bus training for them as well. So they don't have to come with any of that. And I do know that other bus companies require you to pay for that yourself. We don't. So we can enable anybody from any background to become a bus driver if they've got the right attributes.
But also within your organisation, you don't actually have to be a bus driver, do you?
No, you don't. So we've got an amazing cleaning team, and I have to say, through the pandemic, they've really come to the fore, and they've become one of our most valuable teams, definitely. We also have an engineering department, so we're looking again at whether or not we start reintroducing some engineering apprenticeships. So yeah, we look after all of our own buses in Plymouth. We don't send them anywhere else to get fixed. So we have a 24-hour engineering team. We've got a finance department. We have a customer experience department. So people who are on the phones when we've got customers that don't understand, timetables or want to make a complaint or give us a compliment, which is always very lovely. And it's a standard business from that perspective. So we have administrative and support roles as well.
Caroline, talk to me about what you would say to a young person thinking about going into your industry. We're talking today about people having new opportunities, changing opportunities, the whole working world opening up to them, post-COVID, post-pandemic. If you had the opportunity to talk to people now in that position, what would you be saying?
I'd be saying this is a real opportunity to get the beginning of a career under your belt that you can come back to at any point. So it's a very flexible career. And our MD is a bus driver. He started out when he was 18 driving buses in Cornwall, and he is now one of the most successful MDs in the transport industry. We won Bus Company of the Year in 2019, which is the last opportunity. So it gives you that kind of potential career ahead of you, but also it's that flexibility. And when I talk to some of my drivers, they say it's the best office in the world, because they're out there, they're seeing people every day, they're in control of their vehicle, they're in control of their day, they're not being pushed around. As long as they know what they're doing, then they enjoy that level of flexibility. And it sounds crazy when you're working on a timetable, but that's how they see it. And it's different. And I think I'm relatively new to the industry and I didn't really get it, but what I have discovered is it's like a family. We treat our teams as a family, and it sounds a bit twee, but I think that's how people genuinely feel. But also people stay. So we have lots and lots of people who came here and they said, I'm going to be a bus driver for six months. They're still here 20 years later. People really enjoy being part of this industry, and they can see the difference they make to their communities. And I think that's really important to people, that actually they are valued out there, that people in town recognise how important that is. And we've just, the Prime Minister's just released a new bus strategy and demonstrated that actually this is a form of transport, but also it's green. If we think about what is important to a lot of young people in terms of our environment, this is an industry that can really make a difference to our environment and is intending to make a difference to the environment. And I'm not sure everybody thinks about that. They kind of see great big red vehicles and don't really think about the fact that we're keeping cars off the road, that we're changing the fuel that we've got for our vehicles. So actually, if that's really important to you, this is an industry that you can be part of and actually feel that that's matching your value set.
I think it's really interesting what you say about being part of the community and part of change and part of, the green economy. I know that you're an outstanding company because I've handed out enough awards to you myself. But I think that I feel sometimes that people think it's a bit of a closed shop in a way, because it's hard to get into. But also I feel that people think that being a bus driver, it can be quite isolating. But the reality of it is kind of what you've just said, which is that you are part of a community. And I know that you and Richard have told me many anecdotes over the years about how bus drivers have been really entrenched in the lives of the people that they safely carry around this city. Can you recall any of those for us?
Yeah, completely. I mean, particularly where we've got routes that might be a little bit more rural. So when people are going, out into Devon past the city or out into Cornwall, then we will have people who'll get the same bus every single day. And we'll have bus drivers who will actually call in and say, I haven't seen that passenger today. I'm worried. and we can then connect with the police or whatever if we need to. But also, you know, I've got bus drivers who have brought pasties and brought chocolates by their passengers, because they're so much part of the family that actually that their customers are delighted to see them. And, you know, they know the names of their customers and they know where they live, and they'll go and check on them if they need to. The first story that I heard when I first came here that just really warmed my heart was I was in our Liscard depot, and somebody said, "Oh, you'll meet the supervisor in a minute, but he's just gone to take a bus to pick up somebody who missed the bus." So what had happened was that somebody had missed the bus and then rung in and said, "But I need to get my child from school," and was in such a panic. We turned the bus around and we went back and got her so that she could pick up her child from school, because we'd slightly mistimed something that she'd misunderstood. And for me, the fact that we were willing to do that makes all the difference. And I see those types of stories all the time. I see stories of people of bus drivers who will, you know, we had another one the other day where we had an older lady who was very confused, and our driver managed to find a way of contacting her daughter and getting her to her daughter's house in the bus within sort of 20-25 minutes, when the police didn't have the resources to do it, but we did. And those are the stories that really make me feel good about how we operate and how our teams really care about the people that travel with us.
And I think this is something that struck me about Citybus over the years, is that you are absolutely embedded in the community that you serve. And it feels to me as if you're consistently trying to break down this sort of corporate image and be much more accessible, not just to your passengers and your employees, but also your future employees as well.
Absolutely. I mean, our school services are really important to us, and that they are our future employees. You know, those passengers are the people that we hope will come and work for us. And buses are really important to young people. They're the way that they get around the city. They're the opportunity to actually get out and see their friends. They're the opportunity to get to education and to their other activities. And it is important to us that they see us as professional, because that's really important, but also kind and compassionate at the same time. And I can understand why maybe people see it as a closed shop, but I think, you know, I would encourage any young person who was really, really interested, come and talk to us, come and spend some time speaking to some of our drivers. We'd be delighted. You know, the pandemic stopped us doing some of the community engagement we'd normally do, but as soon as we get through to the next stages of the roadmap, we would absolutely be delighted to have young people come and talk to some of our team members and find out what it's really like, because this imposing white building that sits on the corner of Milehouse might seem very odd to people, but actually once you come in, you'd realise that it's very different.
Well, it's actually filled with lovely people like you, so I can report that. Yeah, quite clearly. But I think as well, just go through with me, because it occurs to me that one of the barriers to people coming forward to you maybe would be that they don't think that there's longevity to this career, that they could just come and join you for a couple of years and then go away again. But actually, you've got massive training programs. You hold on to your staff.
Absolutely.
Talk to me about that.
So we have ongoing training programs because for drivers specifically, because they have to in order to maintain their license. But we've also got additional training things. So at the moment, I'm running some management development around supporting people with dyslexia, for example, so that our managers understand that. We have general management programs that all of our supervisors go through we do a variety of in-house stuff, but we also access external training as well. We're part of the Go Ahead Group, which is an international transport company, and I think a lot of people don't realise that. So although we stand alone as a business, our backing is enormous. So we're part of a group that have got bus and train companies all over the world, including Singapore and Norway and Ireland, and so from that perspective, we can actually tap into really important training programs at that level as well. So we have national and international training programs that people can get involved with. And we've got people, as I said, who've worked here for nearly 40 years in some cases. So we can't be that bad. But also we have people who can drive into their 70s. We have drivers and we have engineers who are way past what might be a traditional retirement age, partly because they really still want to be here, and they enjoy the work, and we can flex that. And we have people that come back after having children. We have people that dip in and out, that maybe they start their career with us and maybe they do go somewhere else, but they often come back to us. And because this is something that they find they really enjoy doing. So it has got real longevity, either in one place if they want to stay with us, but also they've got that flexibility to dip in and out if that's the thing that suits them. So I think for a lot of young people, the thought of staying in one place for a whole career is quite a scary prospect, and not something that they would consider. But this gives you that opportunity to have the movement if you want to.
It sounds absolutely fantastic, and I keep on thinking, gosh, it sounds as if there's some global opportunities there as well.
Absolutely.
But on a practical level, what if someone were to join your company? What would their day-to-day look like initially?
So it depends where you are. So if you're in the engineering team, then your day-to-day would be very specific, and depending on which part of the team you're in, whether you are actually a fitter, electrician, a painter. We've got all the different types of engineering that you might look like. So it's quite difficult. If we focused on driving, because that's the largest group we have within the team is drivers, then you'll come in, you will find out which routes you're doing that day. It's quite structured. You'll see exactly where you need to be at what time, when your breaks will be. But the first thing you'll do is probably have a cup of coffee and a natter, because that's what they tend to do. They catch up with each other. They catch up with what's going on in each other's lives, and each of their breaks tend to be with their colleagues. So they're always checking in on each other during the day. There will be opportunities where you might have some time off the bus somewhere else. So when I think of some of our Cornwall drivers that are, sat by a beach for 10, 15 minutes waiting to turn the bus around, it's a tough old life. And they love to send us photos of those opportunities as well.
See now.
Stuck in an office.
Why? Yeah.
Going, yeah, we've got the best office. And that's their opportunity sometimes to be engaging with the community as well. So actually, if they're not in one of our bases when they stop, they're in our community. So actually, that's when they really engage with, the local shopkeepers or the passengers that just want a bit of a chat. Because for some of our passengers, this is the only person they'll talk to all day.
Yeah.
So although they are out driving, and it depends where they are. If they're in the city, then it's very stop-start driving. You're in and out of bus stops all the time. It's a very busy thing, and the one thing is they don't get bored.
Yeah.
It's not a job where you have the time to be bored, and the joy of being maybe in the more rural routes, and some of our drivers particularly like those, is because you get really long stretches of quality driving for them, that they, it's a long way between each stop, and they really enjoy that kind of challenge of the longer drive. So we've got opportunities for all of different types of people and how they like to spend their day. Some people will do school runs in the morning, have a break, and then just do a school run in the afternoon. So that will suit their lifestyle, if that's what works for them. So those kind of different opportunities probably aren't seen by the outside world until you're actually in here.
That's brilliant. Honestly, some of those things you were saying, it sounds like they're living the dream, quite frankly.
If only you knew, that is the catchphrase, actually. If you ask anybody, yeah, it absolutely is. If you say to any of our guys, how you doing, they'll be living the dream.
Wow. I won't keep you for very much longer. I'm just really glad that you've given this time to us today to talk about this. I guess because we're in a different world now, and things have changed so much. And it's obvious that you're so important to Plymouth and the community of Plymouth. But I guess we're thinking about a post-pandemic world now. So for people watching this, it'll be young people and their parents and teachers and people really thinking about what they can do with jobs and opportunities now and in the next few months. If somebody were to approach you right now, what could you offer them? Okay.
At the moment, we always have cleaning opportunities because it's a very big team. So inevitably, those opportunities are there. And believe me, cleaning a bus is a really, really important job. And the expertise that people need is actually is really important, and we give them that expertise. They don't have to come with it. We can teach that. So we always have those opportunities available, and that might be daytime cleaning or evening and night cleaning. But we also have bus driving opportunities in Cornwall. We've still got a number of vacancies in Cornwall, in Newquay and in Bodmin, but we will also inevitably within the next 6 months or so start having vacancies in Plymouth as we start increasing our passenger numbers. So what we can offer in terms of an opportunity is starting people through a process. Yeah. So even if they say, well, maybe working in Cornwall isn't going to suit me personally, but I'd really like to work in Plymouth, then we could always start that process with them. So we're giving them the opportunity that when that comes up, we could start their physical training, because you can hold your theory and your provisional license for 2 years. So we have that opportunity to at least start them out there whilst they may be doing something else until a vacancy arises.
Yeah, so it's basically just get in and be part of the family, and then they can move around.
Yes, very much so.
I didn't want to say that, but you know what I mean, moving around. Right.
Yeah, and totally. And we do have people that come from our cleaning team into our driving team, for example. So yeah, we're very flexible about that. If you come in, we're not going to stick you in a box. What you want to do and what you have the attributes and ability to do, we will do everything we can to enable you to do.
Yeah. So basically, your key message is just to it's so irresistible to make bus jokes, but you're just telling people to get on board, aren't you?
I am, absolutely.
Sorry, Carolyn. That's
all right.
Just like,
we do it ourselves without even thinking.
Do you?
Yeah.
You should have, maybe that should be part of like a little nice bit of interviews to see the best bus joke that people
we should, shouldn't we? We should have pun bingo.
Definitely break the ice. Well, I know that you're an amazing bunch. I've worked with you on and off over the years. I think anyone who approached you would be really, really lucky to get a job. I completely concur with this idea that you're a massive family, and you're warm and you're welcoming, and your commitment to change and to be, really at the forefront of change on all sorts of different levels. Absolutely astonishing. And as I say, I'm really just not surprised at all that you've picked up all the awards that you have. Very well deserved. And I hope that I hope you continue to find really amazing people to work for your amazing company.
Me too, and I genuinely would love to see young people seeing this as a career for them. It's not a fall into job, it's a genuine career, and we will do everything we can to nurture people through that.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. Honestly, if I was a young person watching this, I would realise that you're all extremely approachable. I'd be on the phone to you. Oh no, sorry. I'd be texting you, emailing you, FaceTiming you, WhatsApping you, anything. Yeah.
We can do all of that. We haven't got a TikTok page yet.
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
I might have to speak to our customer services team.
I'm very much looking forward to it. Carolyn, thank you very much. Anthony, I'm sorry. I'm having to change my position because it was getting a bit dark and gloomy in there, and I was about to be overwhelmed by a tsunami of post-it notes, which I'm sure every person working from home will empathise with post-pandemic. Anyway, wasn't that a great interview? I loved that.
It was fantastic. I've, obviously, like being born and raised in Plymouth, you often see city bus driving around, but you don't realise that it's actually part of a much larger global group. And there's so many opportunities, not just as a driver or as an engineer in Plymouth, which I thought that was incredible. I did not know that. Yeah.
And also I like that sort of global aspect, like you say, you're a global adventurer. That's kind of thing would be right up your street. But also what I particularly liked was the way that she was talking about, being on a micro level, really being part of the community. Also, I had no idea that Plymouth City Bus does so much in Cornwall. The idea of being able to take a break and sit next to the beach and have your sandwiches was absolutely amazing. But also something that she touched upon, which I know historically, I've worked with them before, that they're really, really keen on, is bringing people on building that pipeline, and particularly apprenticeships.
And talking about apprenticeships, we're going to now hear from Olivia, who's actually gone through an apprenticeship herself, and Mike Jones from Plymouth City College, my old college. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that interview and learning more about apprenticeships.
Yeah, it's going to be good. So if we're talking about careers post-pandemic, there is no better time to talk about apprenticeships. And we're lucky to be joined by Mike Jones and Olivia Patterson, both of whom, well, Mike, Olivia, you've both had experiences of apprenticeships yourself, haven't you?
Absolutely.
Kick off by you telling me a bit about that. Olivia, can I start with you first? What's been your experience of apprenticeship?
Yeah. So I started my apprenticeship after finishing my A-levels, and all of my friends were going to university. They all knew what they wanted to do, and I had absolutely no idea. So I wanted to gain a bit of experience, a bit of work experience, get into the workplace and really see how that works, I guess, and learn from that. So I started my business administration apprenticeship at an employer that I'm not with now, and that was my first kind of experience of it. But overall, I think the being in the workplace has just been invaluable to be able to help and actually get involved with it rather than learning about it has been fantastic. Yeah.
Michael, I'll come to you if you could just outline what your experiences of it, and then we'll delve down a little bit more into the nitty-gritty of all of this.
Yeah, so I'm coming from this from a completely different angle, because I work for a training provider and I'm the business engagement and apprenticeship manager. So I personally haven't experienced being on an apprenticeship, but I support thousands of young people and older people to access apprenticeships and get the skills and training needed to progress into careers.
Okay, so Olivia, so Mike's the expert, as it were, and you're coming from the coalface. I'm really, really curious about apprenticeships, because I suppose in a way I don't really fully understand them, and many people watching this probably won't do either. So how does it work? Do you actually get paid, or do you have to just work for free?
Yeah, so it's the way I see it is it's almost like the full package, really, because you're learning, you're getting the work experience, and you're getting paid for it. So within the actual job role, you're getting experiences of what the workplace is like. You're undertaking normal employee tasks. You're then also having your apprenticeship on the side, which means that you're being taught things. For me personally, I did workshops on bookkeeping and principles of administration. So I was able to learn kind of the right and the wrong throughout actually being involved in working as well, and yeah, getting paid for it as well.
So you weren't, this is, I guess this is sort of a kind of a fear that I would have had, when I was your age, that you just sort of get dumped in the deep end. But that wasn't really how it was for you, was it?
No, so starting my apprenticeship at a previous employer, I was grateful for that experience. I wouldn't say it was the best apprenticeship experience, and it kind of taught me some of the difficulties that there can be with apprenticeships. But then coming away from that, I managed to find my job at the chamber, and that has just given me so much experience, knowledge. I've been able to meet people, network, build up relationships, and I just think it's been a fantastic opportunity, and it's something that I couldn't recommend enough, really, if you're not quite sure and you're leaving school, and an apprenticeship is definitely the way to go.
And are you absolutely convinced that you got your job at the chamber because you had that apprenticeship experience?
Yes, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and they were able to help me along the way throughout finishing my apprenticeship. I was lucky enough to gain a distinction with that, and I genuinely believe it's down to the confidence and the experience that I gained through working for the chamber.
So, Mike, coming back to you, talk to me about your perspective on apprenticeships. How would you encourage people to be confident to go along this route?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, personally, I went through the university route, and back when I was going through education, that tended to be the way you went. The apprenticeship route was more aimed at people who were kind of more interested in the kind of vocational side of things and wanted to go out and get their hands dirty, if you like. But like you say, it's completely different nowadays. Just in the press, the amount of coverage apprenticeships get is significant, and the funding and the investment going in from the government is really trying to open up that market to have apprenticeship recognised, not as a way for young people to develop into a job, but actually as a recognised training programme for anybody that wants to move or progress within a career, start and move. They're brilliant. I'm very biased, but they are brilliant. And for me personally, speaking to anyone, previously I've worked in careers advice and guidance, and I've always really pushed the apprenticeship model. As Olivia's alluded to, sometimes it's not the best experience, but the apprenticeship is a job. It's first and foremost a job. It's an employment position. The training bit is just the add-on, but with that real wraparound support that you wouldn't get necessarily if you just went on kind of like a short course or something like that. But the key thing about the apprenticeship is that job, and it's our job as a training provider to educate those employers to ensure that they're aware of their responsibilities in regards to taking on an apprenticeship, so that they're not just dumped, as you described. And that it's about their involvement in skilling and moulding and training that new person into their organisation, or providing the opportunity for somebody to gain lots of skills and experience. But the way that education is going now, and the reforms and everything that's happening, the apprenticeships is sort of at the front of that, and it's about the industry recognising that the best way to get skills isn't necessarily to just go automatically dive in the academic route, but actually let's start looking at the vocational technical skills that any job can do, whether it's a business administrator, hairdresser, or a construction worker.
Yeah. So this is our opportunity to do some myth busting, really.
Absolutely.
Listening to what you're saying, and it seems to me that a lot of the challenges and the barriers that you're facing are the myths that need busting.
Correct.
What are the top myths? Let's have a think. It's that as an apprentice, you don't get paid. You hear these awful stories about people having to do unpaid apprenticeships. Now, that's going to be a number one barrier to people, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And there is a national minimum wage for an apprenticeship, and it is lower than the national minimum wage, across the board. And as an apprentice, regardless of your age, there is a chance that the employer that you are working with may want to pay the national minimum wage. However, my experience is that that isn't the case. Employers will pay based on the skill level experience, or the amount of input that somebody is putting into a business. You may start on the minimum wage, but within 3-6 months, if you're producing in an organisation, there's always opportunities to earn more money. So there's 100% pay. You'll get paid because there is a minimum wage. You can't do an apprenticeship without being paid, but the amount you get paid varies. And there are levels now up to level 7 apprenticeships, so degree level apprenticeships. They're not paying the minimum wage to get those apprentices into their businesses.
Okay. So also, one of the big myths that it occurs to me that you'll be up against is that kids think that they need to go and get further education and a university degree in order to have a decent salary. But what you're saying to me is that that's no longer true. No,
and it's there's been quite a lot of work put into like dispelling that myth recently. I've seen myself sort of newspaper coverage of one of these people is earning this much and drives a really fancy brand new BMW, and this person still lives at home with their mum and dad. Which one went to university? Those sorts of things. And it's not to say that university education isn't recognised, but it's about making sure that you're picking the right level, the right route of training or the career that you're looking to go into. So if you're looking to be in a civil engineer, for example, an apprenticeship will probably provide you with greater opportunities to progress through that career quicker than necessarily going through the academic route. So it's not as black and white as it would have been back when I was making my educational decisions. It's very much about understanding the broader content of the career that you're interested in going into.
So Olivia, I can see you nodding at everything that Mike's saying. You know, this is a lived experience for you. Do you what were the big sort of what was the myth busting that you discovered when you were literally on the ground going through this yourself?
Yeah, so I think the stigma that Mike was talking about with people preferring to go to university or thinking that that's going to better their opportunities is definitely something that perhaps was less when I was going through my A-levels, but it was definitely still there. And I even believed myself that uni was almost the better option. So then coming to do an apprenticeship, I almost straight away didn't see the benefits, the real benefits that are happening in front of you while you're gaining that experience. And even now talking to some of my friends who are at university or did just go straight into a job, I feel that my confidence and my knowledge of being in a working environment is so much clearer. And that is down to my apprenticeship, absolutely. And part of the support that you get from the training provider, even when the previous employer wasn't quite what I'd expected to go into an apprenticeship with, my training provider couldn't be a better support for me, and my assessor. That is another reason why I genuinely believe that I got through my apprenticeship, was because of the support that I gained from them. So yeah, definitely, I think it's just about looking into it and knowing what you want.
It's interesting for me to hear the language that you use around this. So you used a very specific word. You used the word stigma about apprenticeships, and both of you are nodding like that. Talk me through that, because that's obviously something that's very real for both of you. Mike.
Yeah, it is, and you know, we still experience it today, and I think a lot of it comes down to an understanding of the education system, and a lot of it comes down to parental pressures. So, you know, a lot of the people that we engage with at a younger level who are considering apprenticeships, or even some of them considering going into a kind of level 3 a technical qualification, which on paper is equal to A-level, still have a kind of parental pressure to go down the A-level route because of the, you know, the perception that the university academic route is seen as the successful route. You know, and that was the same for me. Is, you know, when I went through it, my dad was very keen for me to go to university because he didn't necessarily have an understanding of it. So it happens today, and there's a really big kind of marketing piece that's being done at the moment around apprenticeships, and you know, I think we're getting there, and more larger employers are getting on board, and that's helping with that kind of overcoming that stigma. But it's definitely something that's still there.
And Olivia, tell me about, so you must have lived through that then. You must have felt that stigma when you were making these life choices.
Absolutely. So I think it's the same thing, really. Both my parents went to university, and when it came to the stage where that was something I was considering, it was definitely more about supporting me, of course, and doing what I wanted to do, but also they had more of an understanding about university and how that works and where that would get me because of their own experiences. So passing that down, they weren't really able to pass on much knowledge about apprenticeships. But I'm also grateful for that, because then it allowed me to research into that and kind of work it out on my own with the help of my employer as well. So yeah, I definitely think that it's more of a knowledge-based thing, and what the parents are kind of more experienced with than what they actually are willing to learn about, really.
So looking back, you know, we're talking about post-pandemic Plymouth and people's opportunities here. Looking back, Michael, over the last 12 months, how have you seen the landscape changing and opportunities for people in apprenticeships opening up, or not, as the case may be?
I mean, there is obviously, as you would expect, and you know, in employment in general, there has been a national drop in the number of apprenticeships over the last 12 months. You know, in Plymouth, however, we have seen kind of a stable number of apprenticeship starts. So we've been actually quite pleased and positive about the city-wide situation. But post-pandemic, you know, there's going to be, hopefully, which we're all hoping for, big fingers crossed, there's going to be this big boom of people wanting to, you know, grow, develop businesses, you know, whether that's leisure, hospitality, tourism, you know, industry, engineering, all these things are going to start hopefully exploding again. And the apprenticeship route is a way for those businesses to really invest in their staff. And it's not just new staff, but existing staff to grow your business. They really should be considered the first option for doing that. And I think, you know, through the work that the training providers do, that communication to the business industry. So we're talking already in the college about what's going to happen when hospitality and hairdressing opens. I know I'll be there straight away because the ear growth hair is starting to get a bit too much. But, you know, regardless of my haircut, what's going to happen to those industries? Because they're going to, you know, they're going to experience high volumes, and, you know, they're going to want to start training up people to be able to come in and support them. So we see that we're expecting there to be a bit of a boom. There are other programs available. Traineeships is something you've probably been, you know, you've heard within the press. And these things are all sort of opportunities for employers to sort of get their toe in before going into the commitment of an apprenticeship. So we do expect to see this kind of education piece really taking off. So fingers crossed, you know, we continue on the road we're on.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to the hairdressers. Quite frankly, there's no way. I'm sorry, I win. You cannot compete with my lockdown look. I'm aware. But Olivia, what have you seen change in the last year?
I feel that I'm lucky enough to work at the Devon and Plymouth Chamber, where, because we're a membership organisation, we're able to see businesses thrive and hear about positive stories pretty much all the time. And it also exposes me to be able to see some of the opportunities that are available for people my age, for older people looking to get into a bit more training or getting into the workplace. I definitely feel that has always been there throughout my employment with the chamber. But I also think, even though it's been more difficult recently with the pandemic, I think it's now about us recovering from this and learning that actually there's plenty more to come, and we're resilient, we're stronger together. And there's so many good news stories and good opportunities for us to get involved in. We've just recently employed 2 new ladies from the Kickstart thing, and we are also a gateway for that. So again, that's another chance for us to see all of the opportunities, all of the young people who are being put into work and getting to have that experience. It's great.
Okay, so that kind of touches upon another myth-busting moment, and I'm going to throw this back to you, Mike. So apprenticeships are not just for young people.
No, no. You know, the apprenticeships reforms have basically opened up a whole range of new apprenticeship provision. You know, as I mentioned earlier, you can do an apprenticeship now at level 7 that, you know, incorporates a master's degree. The word apprenticeship is now needs to be considered as a training route. So regardless of your age, it's an opportunity for you to gain and develop the skills for a new job or role. So definitely not for young people. And I would say we're seeing it a lot more now, where employers are starting to look for a slightly more mature apprentice at certain roles. Because the key thing, as I said earlier, it's about a job, not about a training course. It's not about a level. It's about the job that person is going to do.
Okay, so you've given up your time for us. It's been amazing talking to you both. I would like to ask you both what your top 3 tips would be to people watching this, who are looking to open up their opportunities post-pandemic in Plymouth. So about apprenticeships, Olivia, what would be your top 3 pieces of advice?
So my top one would definitely be to research. Research what kind of apprenticeship you'd be interested in, what level you think your skills are based at the most, and the workplace that you're going into is definitely very important. Secondly, I would say get stuck in, go for it, and enjoy it because it's a great experience. And thirdly, I would say give time for yourself. If you're going for an apprenticeship, make sure that you realise that you're training as well as working, and that can sometimes have a bit of a pull on you. But overall, as Mike said, it is going to mould you into being basically the best employee ever. So yeah, just give time for yourself to allow that training side of things.
Brilliant. And Mike, what would your top 3 tips be?
I'm going to steal Olivia's first one again. It's about research, because I don't think that you can go into an apprenticeship without doing that. And by that I mean, you know, whether you're an applicant or an employer thinking about it, speak to a training provider, speak to your Careers Southwest, speak to your career. There's so much good information out there. And again, Plymouth are very lucky that we've got such a brilliant range of training providers. You know, I could sit here and be completely biased, but actually Plymouth's very fortunate in the way that we are able to deliver apprenticeships. So speak to everybody, find out where your best fit is, because what we do might not be right for you, but another provider may. So speak to them. Number 2 would be proactive. You know, it's a job market. It's not I'm applying for a course and I'm going to get on a course. It's proactive. Like if I was looking for a job, I'd have to be searching job sites. I'd have to be applying for jobs. I'd have to put in speculative applications. All of those things. Really important that you that's something you do. And from an employer point of view, they like to see that proactivity. And again, and number 3 again is it's embrace it. You know, I've seen in my job, I have employed and directly managed 7 apprentices, and I've seen all of those progress into fantastic jobs once they've left me. And you know, they've embraced what it is. It's not been easy. They've had to learn, they've had to develop skills, and they've had to really, you know, like Olivia said, manage that time between work and training. But those that embrace it, it creates these fantastic employees and opens doors for future careers.
That's fantastic. Thank you both very, very much, you know, for all this advice and support and reporting from the front line, and also for that myth busting. So the top 3 that sort of stand out for me, the myths that you bust over the last sort of 20 minutes are that, you know, you will get paid. These are not just for youngsters.
Nope.
Maybe most importantly, and I hope that people take as a takeaway from this, which is something that you've both been very reassuring about within this interview, is that you will be looked after. You'll be looked after in the workplace. You'll be looked after by the provider. And hopefully people watching this today will really, really think about apprenticeships as part of their future career path. Thank you ever so much.
No worries. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, I think what Mike and Olivia had to say was absolutely amazing. I don't know about you. I know that you went to the University of Life, but I did actually go to university a couple of times. But I did have the opportunity to be a trainee, to have an apprenticeship within a newsroom. And in retrospect, I think that was one of the most beneficial things that I ever had in my professional journalistic career, was actually to be at the coalface, getting down with the nitty gritty, but having that opportunity to be paid at the same time. Have you ever had a chance to do that kind of thing?
Do you know, it's interesting. I really resonated with what Olivia was saying. When I was at I went and did my A levels because that was what was almost expected. And I actually didn't do very well at my A levels. I failed, was asked politely after a month to leave 3 of them, and I only got a GCSE, an A level in geography. So all of my friends were busy doing UCAS applications and going off to university, and I had no idea what I was going to do. And I actually went to Plymouth City College, as it was previously named, College of Further Education, and did public services. So I didn't go down the apprenticeship route, but I did go down the college route. And so, you know, the fact that today you can go into the world of work and learn whilst you're earning, I think that's fantastic. It's an amazing concept. Yeah.
While you earn, I think that's really innovative. And I have to say, actually, you know, A level in geography is probably all an explorer needs long term, actually. Although whichever way you look at it, you and I did end up both setting up CIC. So that's another interesting sort of thing we have in common. And you know, I do think that probably I would have benefited from going back to a school before I did that. And there is, of course, the School for Social Entrepreneurs at Dartmouth. And yeah, well, this is Michelle talking all about it. Hi, Michelle. Thank you ever so much for joining us. It's really lovely to see you. So you're business manager at the School for Social Entrepreneurs at Dartington. That sounds a very important job title. But just explain to me exactly what that means. What is the School for Social Entrepreneurs?
So the School for Social Entrepreneurs, we're not a school like you think of a school at all. But what we do is we run lots of training courses and learning programs for people who are social entrepreneurs. And what that means, a social entrepreneur is somebody who wants to set up a business that makes the world a better place. And we help people do that all over the country in lots of different ways.
So is this a way of actually having a business and giving back at the same time?
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It just comes from the idea that business doesn't have to be a thing which does harm. It doesn't have to be a bad thing that you then have to balance by trying to do something good in your spare time. You can actually run a business that is a viable business, pays you a proper salary, and does something useful in the world. So there are lots of great examples of them out there.
Give me some examples of that, because that sounds really interesting. In particular, so what stands out to me in what you just said is that you said you are actually allowed to make some money.
Yes, of course. yeah, of course. So I think it's really important that it's a whole part of your career and your life and what you do. So like when I first left school, I really didn't want to go into a job that was making the world a worse place, and it was quite hard to figure out how I might do that. And I ended up actually working for a building society, which is a mutual organisation which is owned by its members. And when I was 18, that seemed like the best sort of way to do it. But then gradually I found out a bit more about this idea of social enterprise. And when I was, so a bit later on, I helped to set up and run a very small social enterprise in Plymouth, where we were running training programs for people in organisations. So we sold those training programs. They were at a commercial rate. We had a good salary, made good income from it. But all that training was all around helping people to be more involved with their work. It's about helping people to think about equality and diversity, helping people to be better at their jobs as social workers and that kind of thing. So we were making the world a better place, but also earning a decent living at the same time.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Sorry, excuse me, that these businesses exist, these social enterprise businesses exist, and a lot of people don't realise that they're social enterprises. I mean, could you give us some examples of some sort of quite well-known names that people notice?
Certainly. So in Plymouth, for example, there's Live Well, which is one of the main NHS organisations. It's unusual. It's a separate social enterprise. It's a business in its own right, but it doesn't take any profits out to shareholders. Everything it does is ploughed back into the business. So there are Plymouth Energy Community in Plymouth, and they put solar panels on the roofs of schools and public buildings, and they generate electricity through solar, and they use some of the money which comes in from that to help out people who are struggling to pay their energy bills and support people to insulate their homes and all sorts of things like that. So there's lots of different ways in which social enterprises work in the world. Yeah.
So if you were, so for example, if you were a young person today, or somebody who's looking to change job or get into work when they, they've had a rough year and they're looking to change things, how would you draw them into what you're doing, or how would they get involved in your industry?
How would they get involved? There are lots of different ways they can get involved. So at School for Social Entrepreneurs, we run startup training courses. So if you've got an idea for a social enterprise, we run a year-long program that people can come on, they get a small grant, and we provide lots of training about how to develop your idea and how to run a business and how to give presentations and all sorts of things that you might need as you're learning as a social entrepreneur. In Plymouth, there's an organisation called Plymouth Social Enterprise Network, and you can become a member of that, and that way you'll meet lots of other people who are doing similar things, and it's a really lovely community of people who are usually really willing to share their experience and help other people along the way as well.
So when you're talking about people sharing their experience, I keep on thinking about, it's really helpful to hear how other people can set things up. Have you got any examples of young people who set up? I suppose they're sort of CICs in a way, aren't they?
Yeah. So there's a thing called a CIC, which stands for Community Interest Company, which is the legal form for a business which doesn't have any shareholders and doesn't take out a profit. So there are lots of those in Plymouth. There are lots of those in the country. I don't know the exact number anymore, but it's at least 10,000. It's probably more than that.
Yeah.
And so I'm just thinking of different examples. There's a great one called Pollinize, and you might even be doing an interview with them as well. I'm not sure. And they're a couple of guys who are really interested in bees and pollination and the importance of those for our cities. So they are they're looking after beehives, and they're educating people about the importance of pollinators, and they're giving out packs of seeds to schools and doing all kinds of things like that. And they get income from selling their seed packs, selling bee-related artwork and birthday cards and all those kinds of things. And all that money goes into encouraging pollinators, doing things that encourage pollinators in the city and educating people about the need for pollinators. So that's one example.
And it's a great example in lots of ways, because what happens, I'm thinking about that. I won't make any jokes about my mind buzzing or anything like that. But what it does is it makes me think, well, why would you set up a social enterprise as opposed to just setting up a business? Because that's kind of what you're doing, isn't it? They're buying and selling, they're paying themselves a salary, all that kind of thing. Why not just go down the route of just setting up a business?
In some ways, it's no different.
Yeah.
I think the reason people choose to set it up as a social enterprise instead of setting it up as business is that it makes a really clear statement. So it's about saying this is who we are and this is why we're doing this. So it's a bit about what we're trying to communicate in the world. So it's people who want to say, yeah, I'm doing this, and what I want to tell everybody is that I'm doing this to make the world a better place. And I think that's quite an important part of it.
Are there any sort of financial or benefits to doing it this way as opposed to doing it?
There can be. The main financial benefit to doing it that way is that if you want to run projects where somebody pays, where you can get a grant, so for example, a sort of a lottery funded project or something like that, you can also get grants to run particular projects as well. So a lot of grant funders are happy to give money to a community interest company to run a worthwhile project. Whereas they're less likely to give that money to a straightforward business where if there's any profit, it's going to go straight to the business owner.
Yeah, so I can understand that. There's a sort of incentivization, isn't there, for the whole idea that you're doing something that's good for the community. I think that, sometimes people hold back a bit from going down this route. Because they think that there's going to be some kind of limit on the amount of money that they can earn, that they can only have a small business, that they can only have a business that is sort of very, very limited in its growth and scope. Is that true, or are you going to bust a myth for me?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be true. I think a lot of social entrepreneurs actually are people who have a value base where they're really sure that having lots of money isn't the most important thing for them, and they recognise that actually there's so much more to life than how much money we've got. Having said that, of course, you know, we all need to have a roof over our heads. We all need to be able to do the fun things in life and be part of a community that you live in. So it's perfectly possible to have as good a salary working for a social enterprise as it is for any of the smaller companies. I think what is different often about social enterprises is that there's a word I'm looking for here. I guess just simply the difference between most of the people who are doing the work in the business and the people at the top of the business tends to be a sensible difference rather than the crazy difference that you get in some of the banks and financial institutions. And I think a lot which a lot of us go, actually, that really doesn't seem very fair. So I think there's a lot more emphasis on fairness. So whilst people, you know, somebody who's running a large social enterprise and they're employing lots of staff, you know, will be earning the same sort of salary as they'd be doing if they were working for a mainstream business. They're probably not going to be earning the silly amounts and the bonuses that people tend to earn in the financial sector. But a lot of us go, well, I really don't think that's a great thing in life that that's happening at all. So there's a much more of an emphasis on fairness and social responsibility. But it doesn't mean you can't earn enough to have a nice house and go on holiday.
Well, it sounds like a very good plan to me. And
yeah.
quite frankly. So, you know, for people thinking about going into this, people thinking about setting up their own social enterprise, what are the practical steps that they can actually take in order to do that? What would people be able to do now? So
I think the very first thing to do is, there are two things that you really need to think about in tandem, and one of them is, you know, what's the difference you want to make in the world? It might be that you're passionate about recycling or the environment, or that you want to help people with dementia or children with a disability. There might be a particular thing that you think, yeah, that's my passion, that's what I want to do something about. And finding that passion, I think, is really the first thing. And if you've got it, you probably know you've got it. And then the next thing is go, okay, what can I do? What are my skills and talents? And what is it that I can do or create or set up in the world that will enable me to do that? And I'd strongly recommend, you know, talking to other people who've done similar things, joining some of the networks, coming on a School for Social Entrepreneurs program, and because there are lots of great people who are doing and all of those things, and will give you lots of inspiration along the way.
It's really interesting you saying this, because I think that it's in some ways for lots of people it's a kind of closed shop, because they think, oh, I can't go into that, setting up my own business. But from what you're saying to me, there's loads and loads of help, advice and support out there.
There's heaps of advice and support out there, and the other thing I maybe should say is you only need to start very small. Try something out, test it. It doesn't have to be huge for the first little while. Try it out, test it, and then let it grow from there.
Do you have to get to some sort of benchmark of goodness with your business? Do you see what I mean? I mean, do you have to
prove how good you are? Yeah. No, it's one of those things. Nobody is really making you, but most people do. So again, it's you know, I think people who are social entrepreneurs are really motivated, and not only so usually social enterprises do try to measure the good that they're doing. They'll gather data and try and measure what difference they've made and report on that, usually once a year or once every couple of years. And I think there's a couple of reasons for doing that. One is to tell the story and just tell it so you can say, look what we've done. And so, for example, there's a cafe in central Plymouth called Moments, which is run by a social enterprise called Memory Matters. So if you go in there and buy a cup of coffee, the money that you spend is going to help people with dementia. So if they can then tell the people who come in and have a cup of coffee, look, all the money you spent on coffee last year helped all these people with dementia do this, and you know, we helped this person do that, and this, and tell a story about it. So that's really important. It helps their business to be able to tell their story. And the other good reason for doing it, I think, is to be able to work out how to do it better as well. So yeah, so although nobody's making you measure it, a lot of people do, and I think it's really worthwhile.
So I mean, I'm a big fan of CICs. Obviously, you know, I've co-founded 2 of them, Beach School Southwest and Southwest Women in Business Networking. I know Anthony's obviously running a CIC. It's absolutely fascinating to me the way that people perceive CICs. They are, and this idea of social enterprise. Still, I think people are a little bit hands-offy, and they think that maybe you can't earn money through them. I know, you know, we've sort of partly covered this before, but I just want to go back to it because I do think that this is a barrier for people starting to do that. How would you convince people that it's a really good idea? It's certainly something that I find on the outside, people talking about quite a lot, and I appreciate that. You know, there are big organisations such as yours supporting people, but I wonder why there's still that. It's a bit glitchy, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't really know. And maybe it is just because it's relatively new. I mean, CIC's only started, I think it was 2007, so it's just quite a long time now, but it's still relatively new. Yeah. I think, you know, one way to convince people may be to say, well, go and kind of work for another social entrepreneur, get a job in another social enterprise. That may be a way to do it. So see how somebody else has done it. And then, you know, we're frequently advertising jobs for people to work with us in different roles. So go and kind of get a job working for somebody else, see how they do it, learn from that. Join one of the networks and meet people through that. Yeah, and just try it. do your own thing and give it a go. It's really hard to go, how do you bust a myth like that without telling you? I mean, I would love it if we could you know, run bits of our program in schools and colleges so that everybody would get a chance to find out a bit more about it. That would be a really useful thing for us to be able to do.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Because I've been speaking to other people today, and one of the things that seems to be emerging is that sometimes you've just got to put your foot in the water. You've got to just stuck in and have a bit of a go. And I don't know whether it's through your organisation you are involved in apprenticeships, but that's something, you know, we've been talking about this morning. That one of the things it occurs to me, because we've been talking about, we are talking about this all day, and obviously we've got this day organised because of what's happened over the last 12 months. But I wonder how things have changed for you within your over the last 12 months. How you've seen things change, and how you see things changing moving forward within this area.
So I guess sort of very simply from my job, because we deliver training programs and we used to work in an office, now we're delivering all those training programs online and we're all working from home. I think one of the things that is changing as a result very directly is that we're rethinking how we offer the support that we offer. So we've moved from a model where it was always about being in a room together, where it's going to change and more stuff's going to be online, and we've been pushed into that very quickly because of the changes this year. More generally, looking at the social enterprise movement as a whole, one of the things that I was completely astounded by, you know, back this time last year or a little bit after, when we had that first lockdown, and it was, you know, it was a really challenging and scary time for everybody. And we were trying to support all the social entrepreneurs that we're already working with through this tricky patch. And one of the things that became really apparent was that social entrepreneurs are a resilient bunch. And not only that, they're really, you know, they're incredibly inventive and creative. And, you know, within weeks, they had, the vast majority of them had change what they do so that their income streams weren't affected. They'd figured out where they could get different sources of funding and grants and things like that, so that they could be really on the front line of providing the COVID support. So there's, you know, really, really interesting to see what we mean by entrepreneurial in a way. People who, you know, the whole world changes and suddenly, and within 2 or 3 weeks, they've gone, okay, well, let's do it this way then, and they've come up with new ideas to do something in a, you know, in a really difficult situation, and we're really kind of working together to make a difference. And one of the other things I really noticed in terms of changes was the level of collaboration between social enterprises seemed to increase. So whereas previously you'd have one organisation working on, I don't know, it was sort of the scrap store working on kind of recycling bits and pieces for craft materials, and another organisation in Plymouth called Borrow Don't Buy, who were a library of things where you could go along and borrow a screwdriver, an electric screwdriver, or a popcorn maker or something. And they're both kind of doing sort of the same thing. They're both about recycling and reuse and having less stuff in our economy. But almost immediately they were working together, and then working with another organisation to take laptops and get them to people that needed them. So really quickly they all started working together to do things, so they could do more together than they could on their own.
I love that.
Yeah.
I really love that story.
Yeah.
That's a great sort of pandemic standout story, isn't it? And it sums up really what you do, this sort of the collaboration, the fast thinking, the fast moving, you know, the social conscience, the entrepreneurial spirit, all encapsulated in that last of yours. I won't keep you any longer, Michelle. Thank you ever so much. I do think that, you know, for young people or people retraining, definitely your field of expertise, I would highly recommend. and for people to contact you, but for your advice and everything today, thank you very much indeed.
You're very welcome.
I hope that lots of people contact you.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be great if they do. People would love to hear from people.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
So another great interview by Michelle. And this is one that actually really resonates with me, because back in 2009, I set up a community interest company when social enterprise was a very, very new concept. And I actually participated in the School of Social Enterprise on one of their startup programs. And I have to admit that it was an amazing, I think it was about an 8-week kind of journey where you were learning, you know, the process of starting up your own business. And so for me, I love polar expeditions, right? You know, and I know, you know, so but and I love visiting schools. So for me, my social enterprise back in 2009 was all about setting up a little company structure where I could earn some money, but to also give back to my community, which was giving back to education. And I know, Alexis, you know, we share very similar concepts with that, with your beach school program as well. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, actually, because you won't know this, but I'm going to tell you now. My co-director at Beach School Southwest, she went to the Dartington School as well and did a similar course to you. I regret that I didn't show it. But it's one of those things, like you say, when you get excited about something, you get an opportunity to pursue it, and also to have a business and to give back. That's a real gift. And I think that both you and I and lots and lots and lots of people are quite often fizzing with ideas. And we are. And we just don't know what to do with them. And so things like this startup weekend at the University of Plymouth that's coming up is an absolutely golden opportunity for anyone with a bright idea. I think that they're offering the most amazing global chance for people to take something that's just been invented in their heads, in their bedroom, and make it into something really, really real. And yeah, it's lovely that Emily Barrett can join us. So Emily, it's really lovely to see you. Just tell us who you are and what you do at the university.
Of course. So I'm Emily Barrett. I'm Knowledge Exchange Officer at the University of Plymouth. And what that ultimately means is that I get to meet lots of interesting people, both at the university and outside the university, and help connect them together and help them collaborate on different things. And as part of my role at the university, then I'm specifically organising our startup weekend events, which I'm here to talk to you about today, which are part of the iMayflower project that's happening across Plymouth at the moment.
Okay, so well, that prompts me to ask two questions straight away. What is iMayflower, and also what are these startup weekends?
Of course. So iMayflower is the Cultural Development Fund, which Plymouth won last year. And it's working with partners across the city, like the university, the College of Art, Real Ideas organisation rather, the council and a number of others to invest and support the development of the creative economy in Plymouth. So lots of interesting things happening, obviously my event being one of them, but lots of things happening like a creative arts festival across the city. Obviously, Real Ideas organisation are launching their market hall soon, which is incredibly exciting. So yeah, lots happening as part of that project.
And obviously, it sounds as if the most exciting thing that's going to be happening is the weekend that you're organising. Tell me about this startup weekend. Who's it for, and what kind of things are happening?
Yes, well, it's very easy for me to say as lead organiser, but obviously I'm slightly biased, and they are really, really fun events. They're for anyone really, aspiring entrepreneurs, anyone with an idea, anyone who wants to find out about starting a business or a side hustle. And yeah, what happens is people come along on the Friday, they have the opportunity to pitch an idea or just join a team. And then they work in teams over the course of the weekend with the help of coaches, workshops, the organising team, some amazing facilitators who are going to be based in Greece for this online event. And they develop their idea and ready for a pitch on the Sunday to a panel of judges.
That sounds absolutely amazing. So it's like a giant dragon's den over a period of 3 days where you get some guidance before you do the final pitch.
Exactly, it's exactly that, and a community of people who are interested in the same thing as you, and a community of people who want to support you as well.
Okay, well, let's rewind a little bit. There's something that stood out for me. What is a side hustle?
A side hustle could be anything. So one of my colleagues at the university has a little side hustle at the moment, selling some products from a company called Tropic. But it could be anything. It could be your little own business or the start of an own business, just something sort of on the side of what you're doing in everyday life if you don't want to sort of fully commit and do that all the time.
Okay, so let's have a little example. So if I was using a site such as, I don't know, if I was doing something like selling clothes through Vinted, sorry, other sites are available too, and I was getting myself in a bit of a pickle, I wasn't really sure what I was doing, I didn't want it to be my full-time business, could I come along on the Friday and get guided through to doing a big pitch on the Sunday?
So for this event, you have to come along with a brand new idea. So you can't already be doing something. And for our next event, then we've got a theme, culture and tourism. So we're encouraging people to come along with ideas relating to that theme. But if you're someone like the example that you mentioned, who's sort of going through that process already, but perhaps needs a little bit of help, this is the perfect place to come along and meet some people who might be able to support you, perhaps meet a co-founder or someone to help develop that idea further, and just sort of take part in a really sort of fun event that takes people from initial idea through to pitch.
Do you know, this sounds really exciting. Tell me a bit more about it. So it's culture and tourism. It has to be an idea that adheres to that, but that's quite broad.
Yeah, really broad. And the reason we chose culture and tourism is, as you'll know, then culture and tourism is sort of a thriving sector in the Southwest, and we do it really well. Last year, Condé Nast Traveller magazine actually picked Plymouth as one of the top 10 places in the UK, or maybe just the top 10 places to travel. And also alongside that, then Startup Geeks said that Plymouth was one of the top places in the UK to start a business. So that's why we've picked culture and tourism. And obviously, everyone's gone through a bit of a tough year the past year, but particularly that sector. So this event is all about encouraging people to come up with innovative ideas, to think about how we bring visitors back to Plymouth and back to the Southwest. Or it could be about your own experiences or desire to travel and an idea that might, support that.
Okay, so just walk me through it. Okay, so somebody has an idea, they come to you on the Friday, they don't pitch till the Sunday. So what happens on the Friday? What happens in between? And where did these people in Greece fit in?
Yeah, so I should have said at the start, these events are Techstars Startup Weekends. So they're part of the Techstars Global Startup Weekend movement. And what that does is it taps Plymouth into a global network of entrepreneurs, startups. And it also means that we get an amazing facilitator, or in this case, facilitators, to help us run the event. So we've got Maria and Stavros joining us virtually from Greece, who run a incubation space in Greece called The Cube, which actually was born at a startup weekend event. So they started their idea and their business many years ago at a startup weekend. And the format of the event is everyone comes together on the Friday, and there is actually some pitching on the Friday. So if you've got an idea to work on, then you have 60 seconds to pitch it on the Friday. And we've got some pre-events if people are unsure about that to help them sort of work out how that's going to happen on Friday. And we listen to all the pitches, we give support, obviously, and then we vote on the best ideas and form teams around those ideas. So if you're someone perhaps whose idea hasn't been selected, then we really encourage you to join another team and see that idea through from concept through to creation still. Still a fantastic experience.
Yes, hang on, can I just rewind? Because
yeah,
my brain's going here. Does it have to be tech? How does it, when you say it's a Techstars Global Startup Weekend, so it has to be culture, tourism, what bit of tech?
So it doesn't have to be tech. Techstars is the brand, and lots of the ideas that we do see at these events are tech related, but they don't have to be. Our winner in 2019 was actually a social enterprise called Big Sis, CIC, which is a mentoring program for girls, and Friedel, who is the founder of that, is doing an amazing job of launching that social enterprise here in Plymouth. So it could be any idea. It could be a product relating to culture and tourism. It could be an experience, a service, a program like Big Sis. So yeah, it's really sort of flexible, and the more innovative, the more creative, the better.
It sounds so exciting and really sort of cutting edge. So if people are watching this and thinking, oh, I'd really like to get involved, can you just give me a couple of examples just really quickly? I know you've talked about Big Sis CIC. That sounds amazing. I get it. But what kind of other things have been winners in the past?
So our last winner, which was for our last online event, was Companion Pass. And that was the idea that you could get your dog to take a behaviour test, like guide dogs have to take. So that they could go with you to any venues, and venues sort of partner with the pass to enable more dogs to visit them. The runner-up was a team called Echo Badge, and they've been working with support from Devon and Plymouth Chamber and the university's business support team to help them develop their idea further. And that was an accreditation service for food vendors or places related to the food sector to show how environmentally friendly and sustainable they were.
These are amazing. These are absolutely amazing. Okay, so let's get back to this Friday afternoon. It's very exciting. So I come along. Oh, I probably can't come along because I'm too old and I don't live in Plymouth. But apart from that, I come along with my idea. Then what happens on the Friday? Who is involved with looking after younger and localer me with a crazy idea from the Friday until the pitch on Sunday?
Yeah, so we've got some amazing people involved in the weekend. We've got people like Gavin Jones, who runs Elixir and also Digital Plymouth Network. We've got Rob Love from Crowdfunder doing an interview on the Friday to launch the event, who always is absolutely fantastic. And lots of interesting mentors to help guide the team through the weekend as well, and workshops as well. And I'll also add that you don't have to be in Plymouth to come along. Obviously, the opportunity with an online event is you can be anywhere in the world. We're focusing on Plymouth and the Southwest and people in this area, but we're not saying no to people coming along from other places, because that just makes the event even more richer, and it means that you might find a co-founder on the other side of the world that can help you and support you in your next steps. At our last event, we actually had attendees in France, in the US, in Ireland, so all over the world, and yeah, it's super exciting.
So you can be from all over the world, but it has to be about Plymouth. Is that correct?
It could be for anywhere. So obviously the theme is culture and tourism, and as you said, that's really broad. It could be about traveling across the world and an idea that relates to that. We're focusing on people from Plymouth and the Southwest, and lots of our prizes are linked to support in the Southwest. But anyone from anywhere can attend, and you're not too old. You can certainly attend yourself as well, even if you're just sort of dipping into the pitches and the audience on the Sunday to listen in.
And then, so if you win this, do you get access to funding? Do people help you grow your business?
So we don't provide any sort of cash prizes, but what we do provide is mentoring prizes, co-working space prizes, support with organisations like Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce, Real Ideas organisation, who I've already mentioned, are involved, and I'm just building up an even wider package of prizes to support the winning teams. But it's really sort of an ongoing community and network of support to help them develop their ideas.
Brilliant. And how big do these teams have to be?
So we have to try and make sure that there's more than 3 people in a team, and ideally no more than 8. And on Friday, when the teams are forming, then the organising team and the facilitators help to support that. So help to make sure that there's an even spread of skill sets in the team, that there's not too many or not too few people in the team, because it's a lot of work to happen in one weekend, and it's quite intense. So you do need to spread over the workload. And yeah, helping to think about what the person who pitched the ideas needs in their team. So perhaps they can really sort of visualize what the product is that they want to create, but actually they can't put that down on design or on paper, or they need someone to support with the business model and the marketing side of things. So yeah.
Well, it's very impressive. You've got some really big names there, you know, to have Rob Love in there as well. I mean, it's just amazing to have these people who are going to mentor people coming to you fresh. But I have to ask you, is now, 12 months into a global pandemic, really the best time to be starting up a new business?
Yeah, so it seems a bit paradoxical, but in the last economic downturn in 2007 to 2009, we actually saw some of the biggest startups launching. So Airbnb, MailChimp, and who else? Uber. And now Airbnb, obviously a business in the tourism industry, is now going through a pivot themselves and looking at how to grow the business moving forward. So focusing on experiences and the staycation. And these are all ideas that our attendees can focus on if they've got ideas related to it. So one reason is that some of the biggest startups happened in the last economic downturn. And then the other thing is these support networks, which I've already mentioned. So it's a real opportunity in Plymouth and the Southwest at the moment to tap into a load of support, a load of networks, organisations that really want to support the growth of the entrepreneurial ecosystem, and help people try something new or give an idea a go, whether it's sort of space, mentoring. There's lots of sort of things that can help people in their next steps.
I absolutely love this. I think it's amazing. I think everybody ought to be involved. They ought to be signing up and getting in there on the Friday. I mean, literally, they could be the next Uber, Airbnb or MailChimp. Or it's really interesting what you say about these innovative, exciting ideas coming out of dips in the economy. And we're clearly in a situation like that right now. So I'm sorry, I could talk to you about this all day. Really, I could. It's so exciting. I'm definitely going to try and get this out to my my networks. And we've got Southwest Women in Business, which would be absolutely thrilled to hear about all of this. It's a global network based in this town. It's really exciting to hear about this and the links between Greece and the Cube and the Textiles Global, and how encouraging and supportive you are of people. Can anyone join in?
Yeah, anyone can join. So normally at our physical events, we might have an age limit of 18, but obviously the online events means we don't really have to think about perhaps serving alcohol or anything like that. We're open to a wide audience, and it really is for anyone who's interested in starting a business, or say you're someone who has seen an app and thought, hey, that idea was mine a few years ago, then this event is for you. And I would say always, and I say this at the start of every event, that everyone is nervous, and I'm always nervous before I organise and facilitate these events as well. But we're all in the same boat, and it's a safe space to come to learn and meet new people. And yeah, as I keep saying, it's really fun.
And you can just, presumably, because it's all online, you can just go along and just observe and listen. You don't have to have an idea, is that correct?
So you don't have to have an idea, but you do have to sort of participate and contribute to a team. So if you're getting involved in the weekend, then we encourage everyone to sort of see it through from Friday through to Sunday. And we've got some innovative speakers and ideas to help people and ensure that they're not getting stuck in that sort of technology. So for example, on Sunday, we've got the amazing Toby G from Street Dance Factory, who's going to be giving a talk and then also getting us up and moving and re-energizing everyone before they go into the final pitches. So we know that it's intense, and online is even more so perhaps, but we're going to be there to help guide everyone through it.
Emily, it sounds absolutely amazing. I'm really excited by it. It sounds so exciting. We've not got very long. Just quickly tell us how people get involved, what they do if they want to.
Yeah, so obviously come and visit us at the booth at the careers fair today, and please do reach out to me with any questions, either through the event today or sort of online. Check out the event page. We also have a pre-event on April 7th. So if you're not quite sure about attending, or you just want to listen to the speakers at the pre-event, then we've got the amazing Ollie Reed from NMA, and we've got Tanuvi from Data Duopoly, which is an incredible tech startup in the Southwest, really sort of making waves at the moment. And yeah, just start a conversation, even if you just want to find out a bit more about the speakers or about the experience of the event so far.
That's amazing. And that's all through the university website, is that right?
All through the university website, and our event page isn't on the university website, but there'll be a link to it in our booth.
That's perfect. Thank you. God, absolutely buzzing with ideas now. Thank you so much for all of that. It sounds like just the most amazing weekend. I might drop in if that's okay.
Definitely, I'll be sending you an invite.
Oh, I look forward to that. Thank you, Emily, so much.
Thanks, Alexis.
Bye. So yeah, honestly, I'm just fizzing with ideas after that. I just find it so exciting. It's just so zeitgeisty and plugging into the moment. The fact that they've got the whole world in there somewhere. Everyone from all over the world can join them. They've even got people in Greece. I can barely contain my excitement about that. I wish I had more ideas, and I wish I was a lot younger, and then I definitely would be there. I would like to revisit them after that weekend and see who the winner is. It's just unbelievable. It's so exciting for them.
Yeah, to take an idea and to collectively over the course of a day, a weekend, to pull that idea apart and kind of and then look how you can shape a business around it is, especially a tech business, and being a tech entrepreneur myself, then there's real strength in going into those workshop environments and having other people thinking of your idea from a slightly different angle. Yeah, is really beneficial for getting your idea off the ground. So yeah, really fantastic to see that happening in Plymouth, which of course is a digital city. So yeah, amazing, incredible.
And also, I think to have those big names being able to support people who are well established, people who are really experienced.
Yeah.
Supporting people who are just really got the germ of an idea, and it'll be like watching the future happen over those 72 hours. I think very exciting indeed.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I kind of feel as if I can relate to all of these interviews because I've been to the college, I've kind of done social enterprise, and now we're going off to talk to Wayne from the army. And of course, when I was so I've been an air cadet. I was in the Territorial Army. I did 4 years in the TA, and I did a short time in the Royal Navy as well. So public services, the armed forces, is something that I'm extremely passionate about. So let's go in and talk to Wayne and see what they have on offer.
So Wayne, you join us from the British Army. Lots and lots of opportunities. Can you just tell me what your role and responsibility is?
Okay, so yeah, my name's Wayne. I am in the British Army. I'm still in the British Army. I've been in probably about 19 years now. I'm currently employed as a recruiter, so I work in Army recruiting. But my actual job in the Army is I am a cyber engineer in the Royal Signals. So I do lots of works with networks and computers, and I generally can fix most things. I'm kind of like the Army's problem solver, really.
Well, it sounds like an absolutely fascinating job. Rewind for me. How do you yourself got involved in it in the first place?
Okay, so I joined the Army. I was 19 when I joined the Army. I've probably actually been in the Army. I was thinking about this the other day. I've been in the Army longer than I haven't been in the Army. So I was 19. I did my GCSEs at school, did pretty well. I went on to do my A-levels. And then after that, I kind of did a few jobs here and there. And then I sort of stumbled into the Army Careers Office, where I'm originally from, which is Oxford. It was suggested to me. I didn't really know a lot about the Army. I thought that everybody in the Army just kind of runs around with a gun in the forest shouting bang bang, and that was what everybody did. So I went into the Army Careers. I did a little bit of a test. I did quite well. And they said, oh, you can be a technician. That's what it was called back then. You can be a technician in the Royal Signals. I didn't know who the Royal Signals were. I didn't know what a technician was. But they said, you'll get this much money. And I was like, okay, where do I sign? And that was it, really. Then I started out on my journey into the Army. It was a bit of an unknown thing, really. I didn't know what to expect at all. But it's just been full of adventure, really.
Well, yeah, full of adventure, a bit like this last year. So lots of people who'll be watching this today will be, they'll be young people thinking about what their career should be. There'll be people thinking about retraining. There'll be people who've lost their jobs over the last 12 months. How would you persuade people to sort of lean more towards your direction?
Well, first of all, with the Army and with the military in general, you have a guaranteed job. And certainly over this whole over the whole pandemic, what's been happening over the last couple of years, that anybody who's in the military and who's in the forces has got a guaranteed job, and there's been no danger on that side of things. So it's guaranteed employment, and we've had to adapt. The military, one of the key skills for being in the military is adaptability. And certainly 2020 was quite a challenging year for us, and we've had to adapt. We've got soldiers who have helped with building of the Nightingale hospitals, and we've had loads of soldiers that have stepped up to kind of, you know, fill those voids in those areas and help out with things that they wouldn't usually be doing. I mean, that's one of the unique selling points of the job as well for someone, is that the kind of variability in the job is huge. I mean, I say I'm a cyber engineer, but I've probably done every job you can do in the Royal Signals as a cyber engineer. So I've got a wealth of experience in the world of communications. Every time I go to a different unit, I pretty much will do a different job, and I love that variance.
So this is interesting, isn't it? I mean, you know, breaking it down a bit more, because people think, you know, if you go into the armed services, if you go into the army, you've got to be prepared. You know, you've got to be ready to go to war all the time. But for many people, that never actually happens. No,
so everybody in the army is a soldier first, okay? So what do we mean by that? A soldier first means that anybody can be called on at any time to be a soldier. So it's kind of like when you go to the supermarket and they say all till trained personnel to the supermarket checkout. So everybody is trained to work on the checkouts, but not everybody does that all the time. And that's the same with the army. So everybody is trained to be a soldier, but not everybody does that 24 hours a day. Obviously, we have to keep up with our skills and remain current. I'm a trained soldier, just the same as anybody else in the infantry is a trained soldier. They're probably a lot better than I am at being a soldier because they do it all the time. But I can do it. I pass all my tests each year, and I am a trained soldier. So yeah, you're right. We have 7 different career streams. That's what we call it. So we've got careers in like medical, IT and comms, engineering, HR, logistics, as well as careers in combat as well. So, you know, we offer over 220 different jobs.
So I think one of the things that hold people back slightly maybe from applying for something like the army is that they think that you have to be strong and tough, and it's very physical, and you probably have to be male. Are these things that still stand in 2021? Are there limits to the people who can apply for jobs?
So there are obviously some limits. There is an age limit. So you cannot join the army. The minimum age that you have to be to apply is 15 years and 7 months. Right. And we have an age cap, which is 36. So you can apply once you're over the age of 36, but we do have the reserves that are open to that as well. So reserves, you can apply up to the age of 50. But as far as kind of limits with job roles, there are no limits. We are open to men and women, and they can do any role they want. So if you want a role in combat, you can do that. If you want a role in HR, you can do that. There are no limits. Yes, there are some fitness standards, of course, because we are all soldiers. But what I would say is the fitness standards are constantly being assessed, and they're constantly evolving. We have moved away from one standard for women and one standard for men. And we have moved away from kind of age standards for fitness, and there is now one standard for men or women, no matter how old you are. So we all have to meet the same fitness standard, and these are constantly changing. They changed last year again. And what I would say with the fitness standards, with kind of the running and everything else, is it's achievable. It's achievable by anybody. And we have loads of support in place if you come through the army careers to support you in your journey to getting in the army. Even if you've never run before in your life, we can help you.
Maybe back to this age limit of 15 years and 7 months. That's quite specific. But for you, people watching this, they might think, well, I'm really interested in going into that, but you know, I'm just telling you this now. You can be quite intimidating, and they can be quite scared, you know, about going into the army. Especially that feels really young to me. I'm sorry, I've got to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, so the reason we go for 15 years and 7 months is we are the only army in Europe that recruits under 18s, because we have we have a foundation college, okay, our Army Foundation College at Harrogate, and that is where we send all our young soldiers. So we have two forms of entry into the army, and if we're talking soldier entry, we have junior entry and we have senior entry. So we take candidates after they have finished their GCSEs. Okay, so we do intakes into Harrogate in September and we do intakes in March. So the reason we say that they can apply at the age of 15 years and 7 months is because that is the application process can take a while, and by the time they get to September, they will be kind of over the age of 16, and they will be of the right age to do the course that they want. And Harrogate is a foundation college. So if you think of Harrogate like sixth form for somebody who wants to be in the army, that is pretty much what it is. Okay, it's a slower journey into the army, and the candidates, they are there for a lot longer. Whereas someone who is over the age of 18 and they join senior entry, they will go and do basic training, which is 14 weeks. So both ways into the army are equally as good. Some are better than the others. Some are just as good as the other ones. And some people prefer junior entry. Some people prefer senior entry. You know, I went in senior entry. I was 19 when I joined, but I'm sure I would have been fine to go in junior entry as well.
Wayne, talk to me about anybody wanting to join the army if they are retraining. So, you know, we've obviously had this last 12 months, which has turned everything on their heads. And there'll be people who have lost their jobs. There will be people who are exhausted and exasperated with their jobs. There'll be people who need something new, but there'll also be people who are thinking about jumping ship. Sorry, there's a better reference to the name, obviously. So not jumping ship, but jumping land. And they might be thinking about joining you. What would you say to them?
So the army has loads of opportunities in training and retraining. So when you initially apply to the army, we look at your GCSE results, but we also look at what training you've received previously. My own career stream as a cyber engineer offers an in-service degree. So I will study throughout my career, and there'll be several times throughout my career I will go away and do a course, and then I'll be educated to a higher level. So we give people that join the army, we give them qualifications that would enable them to fit quite naturally into a job outside were they to leave. And there are a number of jobs in the army that do offer training up to degree level. I think one of the fastest we've got Geotech, which offers in-service degree. My cyber engineer, you get to degree. Some jobs in the Royal Electrical Mechanical Engineers also go up to degree level as well. So I'd certainly say retraining wise, we're really good at that. For anybody who is in the service and who is looking to leave to get a job outside, we do retraining for them as well to help them fit into a job outside very easily. Okay,
just to rewind for me to this idea of being 16 or 18 and thinking about joining the army. So you could go for the training at Harrogate, but there are also possibilities, are there not, of going through university at the normal time, but being supported by the army?
Yep. So the army has scholarships and bursaries available. So this is kind of more along the officer entry side. So in the army, we have soldiers and we have officers. So when you think of officers, you think more of managerial types. So you have to be more of a people manager. The job comes with a lot more responsibility, but with, you know, marginally better pay, and a slightly shorter career. But for people who are thinking of maybe staying in education and going off to university, the army offers the opportunity for them to apply and gain a scholarship or bursary. So they will start to be funded usually in the second year of their A levels if they're successful, and then all the way through university. There are different levels of scholarships depending on what degree you're doing at university. Okay, so if you're doing maybe a technical degree, or maybe some sort of medical degree, there will be kind of different levels of money available to you, and it would usually come in the form of like an amount per term with a lump sum at the end. And all you would have to do after you finish university is you would have to then go to Sandhurst, and then you would be join the army, I think, for 3 years, and that would be you. So there is lots of opportunity for the army to help you and pay you and fund university.
I think as well. So yeah, let's stick on this subject. Let's talk cash, because I think for a lot of people they'll be wondering whether they can make a decent long-term living, whether there's job security, how much they're going to earn, you know, whether this is a sensible career option for them if they want to have a family and support a family. All these kinds of things are going to be, you know, real questions that are going through people's minds before they think about joining.
Yeah, so, well, money, everybody's interested in money, obviously. As a soldier in the army, your minimum wage once you finish training will be 20k. I say that's a minimum because a lot of soldiers who are trained in certain trades will be on more than that straight away. So 20k is good. It's gone up. I think it was like 18.5. It's recently gone up to 20k. That's the minimum. Yes, money is important as well, but we also know that kind of job satisfaction and family are very important. So in the army, if you are married, that is changed now. Actually, you don't have to be married to be able to get a quarter. That's what we call it, a house on an army estate. So if you're in a long-term relationship, which is viewed as over 365 days, you can apply and you can get a house. I myself, I lived in what was called singular living accommodation for many years, which is accommodation has come a very, very long way since I've been in the forces. Accommodation is very, very good now. A lot of rooms, there'll be kind of single person rooms with ensuite toilets, you know, Wi-Fi, and you almost develop this kind of community with people who you are working with if they're living in single living accommodation, and it works the other way as well. If you've got a partner and you've got a place, then you will live on like an army patch, as they call it, and there's a great sense of community. And the army has loads of organizations that support families, organizations like SAFA, they support families, and we have welfare organizations as well that are there to engage with the families. So when maybe we go away on tour, they will be there to support the families.
I mean, it's really interesting to hear you saying this, because historically that hasn't been the case, and it sounds as if it's been sort of radically changed over the last few years, you know, and definitely for the better. So just to sort of sum up, it seems to me that there are lots of entry levels. I think that, I'm not sure if you mentioned or if you emailed me, that there are 76 different roles. Is that correct?
Yeah, so 76 different roles, 220 different jobs. Yeah.
How difficult is it actually, really? Just tell me, really, how difficult is it to get in?
How difficult is it really?
Yes.
It's achievable by anybody. You know, I think I could still get in now, and I'm nearly 40. So if they put the entrance age up, I think I'd still be fine to get in now. Fitness wise, I can still meet the standards. I've seen a lot of change. I've been in like nearly 20 years now, so I've seen a lot of change, and it's changed for the better. It really has. And I think you might see the ad campaigns on TV. It is very, very achievable by anybody from any kind of background, even if you've never run before in your life. And don't think that everybody in the army does just run around with a rifle shouting bang bang, getting rained on and shouted at. That's not how we do things. There are just so many different opportunities and jobs. I didn't even know some of the jobs, you know, before I started in recruiting. I didn't know you could be a singer in the army. You can actually be a singer. Yeah, there's I think there's like 3 or 4 spots to be a singer. I didn't even realize that was a job, but it is apparently. So
Right. Well,
So yeah, come and have a chat. Come and have a chat with us. Give us a call or go online, Plymouth Army Careers. Give us a call. Our number's on there, or even email us. We can chat to you about all the jobs. On the Army Jobs website, there is a role finder, so you can go on there and type in a keyword that you're interested in. If you're interested in gaming, if you're interested in medical, you just type in a word, and it will come up with all the jobs that we have in the Army that are kind of available to you that are associated to those words.
Well, that sounds absolutely fantastic. I'll type in. Well, I won't type in singer because I fail that. But it's reassuring to know that that nowadays, that in order to get into the army, you don't have to call through a muddy assault course or be shouted at by somebody. It sounds as if things have changed really
Yeah, they have.
radically. Is there still a lot of demand for jobs? I mean, are you going to be with lots of jobs? You hear about people having a 1 in 200 chance. Does that stand for you?
There are certain jobs that we recruit a larger number of than other jobs per year. So some jobs, might only call for us to recruit a certain number of people, but we will always try to put the right person in the right job for them. If that involves them waiting for a spot to become available, then we will do that. Certain jobs are more popular than other jobs, so they will always be harder to get into than others. And we get given a kind of an allocation plan of where the jobs are and when the dates are, and we will try and fit the right people into the right job.
Well, it's been really very illuminating listening to you, actually, Wayne. Thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.
It sounds to me as what you're encouraging people to do is just to have a go, and that if you never try, you never know, and that you've made real efforts to be, welcoming and helpful, and that there's a really eclectic mix of things that people can do, and a really sort of sensible baseline salary there for anybody young or retraining to start a really outstanding career path if they want to.
Definitely.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
So that was Wayne and the opportunities that are available in the armed forces. And I did not know that there are 3 or 4 job opportunities of being a singer in the army. That's the one take-home message that I got from that. It just shows that there is a diverse kind of like job opportunities and pathways that are available during through the armed forces, not just the army, but of course the Royal Navy and the Air Force. And Wayne and his team are available at the Plymouth recruitment office. So not only can you engage with them in the on our event today, but you can also go into the career office and speak to them directly as well. So look, what a diverse range of opportunity available. So yeah, really good to hear.
It really stood out for me too, I think, as well, Anthony, that that whole idea that there are hundreds and hundreds of jobs, and there's like a job for a singer, not a karaoke singer, but a singer, and but also it sort of dovetails into that big eclectic idea of the whole army being an organisation which has strengths all over the place, that is a team, a massive team, that everyone gels and links together, that they're a network, and how important it is actually to have networks supporting you within, it doesn't matter whether you're in the army or when you're in business or whether you're a startup. It's the network, the net that's going to catch you, which is most important when you're going to fall, and you will. Failure is all part of success, isn't it? And so, it's really brilliant that Plymouth Social Enterprise Network could join us, and they explain to us what they do. So we're now joined by Jessica and Sophie. You're from an organisation called Plymouth Social Enterprise Network. Can you run me through that, please? Because it's going to be new to people who are watching this, I think, largely, and it is quite new to me. Who wants to kick off?
Shall I take that, Sophie?
Yeah, you can start, Jess.
Okay, so Plymouth Social Enterprise Network is a network of social enterprises in the city. We work to bring them together to help with collaboration, communication, to act as a central hub for opportunities that might help them start their business, support their business, build their business, whatever it is that they're looking for at the stage they're at. And we also do a lot of work in terms of strategic support and growth, working with local authorities and funders and investors to make sure that that support is there for the city for social enterprises.
Why social enterprises in particular? Why is it necessary to have a network for them? Is it because you've got the chamber for businesses and you need something for other types of business?
Do you want to take that, Sophie?
Yeah, I think maybe you've hit the nail on the head there a bit. There's a lot of support networks and support organisations out there for what I'd call mainstream businesses. So, like you say, the Chamber of Commerce is a good example of that. But there's not so much specific support for businesses that are committed to doing good. So working towards the social or environmental mission. And I think what's important to bring those together is they can sort of have more combined impact if you sort of bring them together and give them opportunities to work together. The ideal thing, and what we try and do at the network, is bring social enterprises together with the wider business world, so to create those connections between them, because then we can create, you know, even wider impact if all businesses are starting to work together, and more mainstream businesses can learn more about the social enterprise model and why that's important.
Why is it important?
Well, social enterprises they are businesses. They aim to make a profit. They work as traditional business does, but they do more. So they make the world better in everything that they do. That is written into their constitution, into the base of the whole business. They have a purpose, a social purpose. So it's either people or planet or something that makes the world around them a kinder, safer, more equal, fairer place to be.
Mm-hmm. So we spoke earlier to Michelle, who's from the Dartington School for Social Entrepreneurs, who I'm sure you know her really well. So I'm thinking that maybe that you're the next step up for people if they've already started a CIC or they have an established school. What is this progression? What happens when they land in your lap, as it were?
So the School for Social Entrepreneurs is a service that provides training and support for people who are starting them or are looking to upscale them. Mm-hmm. What we do isn't direct training in that way. It's more around, it's sort of twofold. There's ensuring that there is a good, robust, solid community, which is very much rooted in the local and in the grassroots and the connecting. And then there's the strategic work I mentioned, which is ensuring that these businesses who are doing good and who have additional need are heard at the highest levels where they should be. So we actually have a really good relationship with the School for Social Entrepreneurs, and Michelle is on our board. So yeah, we do have quite a lot of their fellows that come through and then come to join us, because it's that next step. Being an entrepreneur can be a lonely business. Why do it alone?
Yeah. I think another thing as well is, to building on what Jess was saying about the strategic side of things, it's about creating that ecosystem for local social enterprises. So it's sort of working behind the scenes to provide that support for them and to be working on their behalf to sort of keep the momentum of the movement.
It sounds, it sounds really helpful and really supportive. And I'm wondering, people coming fresh to this, it would be helpful, I think, maybe to have an example of a business that has been helped and supported by your network. What would happen? Do they sort of rise through the ranks and then you take them forward to people that they can meet, or is it just a collective and working together as a city to embrace this whole idea of Plymouth being a social enterprise city?
Very much the latter. So we are a social enterprise city, which is actually a national award, and we were the first city to ever be awarded it 7 years ago. Yeah. And it's because we have such a prolific social purpose economy. We lead in the country, and we lead internationally in understanding why we need to do business differently in a kinder, more inclusive way. What do you think, Sophie?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I can speak from the perspective of a member as well, because the organisation I work for is a member and has been for many years. And I think it is about it's about that collective and having the opportunity to network and share experiences, and share challenges as well. And so you can sort of go to the network with a particular challenge, or you're looking for help with a particular issue, and it's just having that sort of the network itself. It's sort of having that easy access to the like-minded businesses and being able to connect with them easily.
Yeah.
So people watching this will, largely what we're trying to do today is reach people who are either young people who are thinking about their future careers, or it's people who've decided over the last 12 months to change what they're doing, or have been forced into change over the last 12 months. What route is there to get involved in your network or your businesses for somebody who's young and starting, or not so young and changing?
I think one of the first steps, and one of the things that we can really do to help people, either young people or people who are just starting a new phase of their journey, is that we know a lot about what's happening, lots of fingers in pies, lots of conversations. So if you come to us, what we can do is put you in the right place with the right people to take the next step that you want to. And particularly for young people right now, they have more of a social conscience than any generation that's come before. They want to do business in better ways. We haven't infiltrated far enough into mainstream economy for them to understand that there is a way to do that already there. There's a framework, and what we can do is introduce them to that framework and give them to the people who will help them.
So this is really fascinating. So you've absolutely nailed it, haven't you? We've got a new generation coming through who've never had they've never been more active, really, and they've never had such an opportunity to be active. They've never had such encouragement to be active, and they've never had the communication skills and access to the communication abilities that they have now. Ever before. Things have changed radically in the last 10 years, and even more radically over the last 12 months. But still, if they're coming to you and they're relatively young, it's an interesting dynamic there, isn't it? To try to persuade people that actually you can make a good living and be good at the same time. Can you explain that? If somebody was approaching you, how would you explain to them that you could become involved in this, as opposed to going off on your own and just setting up your own business? We're talking about social enterprises here, aren't we? We're talking about CICs, which are businesses but still giving back.
So setting up a business is hard.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. It's isolating. It can be expensive. It's emotionally draining. And one of the biggest selling points, I think, from my perspective, and I'm sure Sophie has an opinion too, but one of the biggest benefits of starting a social enterprise is that there are lots of organizations out there that recognize that.
Yeah.
And they recognize that what you're doing is actually something more than a regular business. You're trying to do something positive and good, and they offer you the support for that. So there's additional funding, there's additional training, there's additional mentoring. There are so many resources out there that will help you take that step to do that better thing with your business.
And they would be accessed instantaneously if people approached you or joined your network?
We can definitely put them in touch with the right people, because we have relationships with them and we know. I mean, Sophie, do you want to speak about the support ecosystem in the city?
Oh, that'd be amazing, Sophie. Yes, please tell us all about that.
In terms, anything in particular, Jess?
just thinking about the Enhanced project and the support that it's brought in and similar.
Yeah, so talking about the Enhanced project that Jess just mentioned, that was an EU funded project that several social enterprises in the network were involved in delivering. So it was there is quite a lot of, especially EU money, around supporting the creation of social enterprises, and in particular helping them to grow and scale as well. Yeah, so it's not just about sort of getting started, although there is obviously a lot of support around there for startups, and there's local support as well as a lot of national support on that front. But also sort of taking social entrepreneurs on the journey, so taking them through the setup and getting started, but also then moving forward to looking at how they can scale up and create more impact in the area they're looking at. So the Enhanced project, for example, was help around digital. There was business support, so that support around setting up what sort of legal structures do you want to choose, support around measuring and reporting on your social impact, as an example.
Getting funding.
Funding, yeah.
Funding. Yeah, and that was a partnership as well. So there were 5 organisations in and around Plymouth who all worked together to provide all of that support for free.
Great. And so that EU funding is still available, and is.
I think the project's finished now, hasn't it?
Enhance is winding up.
Yeah.
But there is talk, isn't there, Sophie?
Yeah.
There are discussions now about a legacy support programme, so we're just waiting for them to fill in the details for us.
It's just, this conversation just sums up the last 12 months, doesn't it? Everything's changing all the time. Just cast your mind back over the last 12 months for me. How have things changed for you? What's the landscape? How has the landscape changed in this sort of whole field of CICs and social entrepreneurship and the area in which you work? Because I'm fascinated by Plymouth being a social enterprise city. I think it's groundbreaking, and I think for lots of people it's hard for them to get their heads around.
Yeah. I think it can be taken in a variety of ways. If you look at the more operational ways things have changed, then obviously there's a lot more stuff going on remotely and digitally, which is great because we can get more people involved. So, for example, the network over the last year has been continuing to run meetings and networking events for members, but we've done that virtually, which is great because more people can get involved. But then also, things have also changed, I think, in the social enterprise world in general. Is we've seen a real increase in interest in the business model, and I think where a lot of people have either gone through some changes in their life, they may have been made redundant, may have left their jobs, they've sort of looked into starting up their own business, and where they have, there's been a lot more interest in the idea of creating a business that creates good in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So you've seen an upturn in that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think in lockdown 1, that huge all-engulfing wave of community spirit that came out really highlighted A, spaces where we needed more support, and B, the kind of people that wanted to step into them.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's been a lot of new startups, and I mean Plymouth has around 200 social enterprises in it right now.
Yeah.
And I'm not aware of any that have been forced to close or fold as a result of COVID, because they've been quick on their feet and they've seen the spaces and they're already set up to deal with adversity. They already understand.
Yeah, and that I would reflect that on a national scale as well. It's been really positive in that these businesses, from the very way they're made up, they're able to be a lot more flexible and, like Jess said, a lot more quick on their feet. They can adapt easily. So it's been really good to see, not many are being forced into permanent closure, which has been really positive.
So that's interesting what you say, Jessica, that these sort of gaps opened up in that first lockdown. you know, what were they? What were these gaps that people were seeing that they've filled?
I mean, there were lots of them, but they primarily, I think it highlighted where the spaces in social isolation were.
Yeah,
Digital inequality was a massive one that became very, very clear. And again, it really shone a light on some areas of, say, food poverty and food equality that we hadn't noticed before. That we knew they were there, but we were only seeing the very big ones. And there were these other spaces that desperately needed support, but they weren't being shone a light on. So yeah.
Yeah, so that's really interesting, because it seems to me, and especially talking to Michelle, and to a certain extent, and Emily, who's talking about startup, was that actually when gaps are identified, people have moved really fast to fill. Is that correct?
Yeah. And social enterprises can do that. And because they have the added support and buffer that they can apply for funding, whereas traditional businesses can't, they can step up much quicker. They don't have to work out how to make it profitable immediately. They can say, oh, right, let's get this done. Let's fix it. Let's solve a problem.
There was also quite a lot of targeted support available as well in response to COVID to support people that were addressing these social issues.
That's amazing. What would be, so things have really changed in the last 12 months, and also the way, not only the way that you see potential businesses and areas that need gaps that need plugging, but also the way it seems to me that people are looking at social enterprises. What would be your most persuasive tactic to encourage people to go into this area?
That's a good question, because there are lots of good reasons to go into this area.
Go on, Jessica, start.
I think that if you are going to run your own business or dedicate your life to some sort of career work experience, it should be something that fulfills you. It should be something that gives you something back.
Yeah.
And social enterprise allows you to do that, because you pick an area that means something. The majority of social entrepreneurs, it's over 75% of social entrepreneurs have lived experience of the issue that they're dealing with.
Really, that's so interesting. That is so interesting. More than 75%.
Yeah. So it allows them an understanding and an empathy and a way to fix something. And there's nothing more fulfilling than knowing you're doing something good.
So that is so interesting. That ties into with that philosophy that actually you should just do what you know.
Yes.
Yeah. And this actually gives people an opportunity to monetize that and to make a living out of doing what they know.
Definitely. The SSE have just recruited, they're midway through a programme which Devon County Council funded, which is aimed specifically at people who've been made unemployed or who are at risk of unemployment as a result of the COVID crisis. Mm-hmm. And it was massively oversubscribed, because these people are out there and they've gone, I can do this, I can make this work. Here's a problem I can solve, and here are some people that are going to help me do it. It's inspiring watching people step up in that way.
That's really interesting. So within your network, so obviously, we've covered setting up your own organisation, but actually within your network of organisations, who's recruiting most at the moment? Where's the biggest need?
In terms of a sector, like, It's a good question.
I would say over the last year, especially in response to COVID, it's probably the health and social care sector, because there's an awful lot of social enterprises operating in that area, and those that have probably upped their services rather than have to sort of rein back like a lot of businesses have done. Demand for their services have soared, and they've had to continue delivering throughout. and obviously there's been sort of staff shortages because of people being ill with COVID or having to isolate. So I'd say that's a big area that would probably be recruiting staff at the moment.
And what's exciting in social enterprise is that they do that in a variety of different ways. Yeah. When we initially say, health and well-being, we go, oh, therapists or some sort of therapy. But social enterprises don't. They're doing it through gardening. Mm-hmm. They're doing it through mechanics. Like I know a garage, they're not local, but they work with people who have mental health issues and they fix classic cars. That's how they do it. Arts and making. They do it in such an incredible variety of ways because these people take what they love and what they do and then they apply it to solving the issue.
That's absolutely fascinating. I know I shouldn't be really surprised that the health and social care sector is completely taken off in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah.
But it is really interesting, and I like the way that you describe it like that, Jessica. This isn't about people. These are about sort of slightly different ways of being holistic, isn't it? It's about the gardening, it's about the mechanics, it's about inventive ways that aren't mainstream, which makes them very imaginative. So if somebody was wanting to get involved in the Plymouth Social Enterprise Network, how would they go about that?
Drop me an email. That would be my advice. It's generally me that picks them up, and I'm a natural helper, I guess. So what I can do is I can give you some initial advice, some initial thoughts on where you're going, and then I can definitely redirect you at the people that will help you best. That's something that we're really good at. And come along to our networking sessions.
Yeah. I was talking about networking sessions. How did they work? Before COVID, how did they work, and how are they working now?
So before COVID, they were obviously in person. And they were an opportunity for people to come along, meet other entrepreneurs, have a bit of a chat, find out what the network was up to, and let us know if there were any areas that they needed support in, really, things that weren't happening.
Yeah.
In COVID, we're doing something similar. It's moved over the time of COVID. It's been a whole year. So we've tried to be reactive to what people need. So at the moment we're doing monthly get-togethers, which are very casual, very low-key. They're just an opportunity to come in and do traditional networking, really, where you get to go off and have a chat with a couple of people, make some connections, ask burning questions that are bothering you. Maybe you're looking for funding, or perhaps you want to start up, or you're running a holistic wellbeing gardening service and you've realised that you need some feedback from somebody who works in counselling. So how can we link you up? But it's designed to give people a space, because I think that's what we're needing right now.
That's great. So those are online?
Yeah.
And what, are they once a month for an hour, or?
At the moment they're once a month. They're about an hour and a half. And we've got one coming up on the 30th of this month.
Okay. Is it evening, daytime?
Daytime. That one will be from 10 till 12. They tend to be either morning or afternoon.
Okay. So we better give your website a plug, or your Facebook, or your Insta, or whatever.
Yeah.
People find you.
So if you type in Plymouth Social Enterprise Network, we pop up at the top anyway, but it's www.plymsocent.org.uk. And you can use that same abbreviation across all the social media platforms and up will pop.
That's brilliant. I could talk to you endlessly about this all day, as I'm sure that somebody like Anthony could as well. We've both set up, I've set up a couple of CICs. He obviously is a CIC. I think it's absolutely amazing. I think the more people set them up, the better. I know that people think it's a bit complicated, but actually it's really nice to know that there are networks like yours that are out there who are going to unpick this crazy ball of string. And, it's just brilliant to see your faces and to know that you're so approachable. And it sounds to me as if you're completely unfazed by anything that anyone's ever going to throw at you, quite frankly. Thank you so much, Sophie and Jessica. It's really, really lovely to see you. And keep doing what you're doing, and I can only hope that your network grows and grows.
Thanks, Alexis. It was lovely
Thanks
to meet
very
you
much.
too.
So that was Jessica and Sophie from the Plymouth Social Enterprise Network, and I think the biggest take home that I took from that is just how resilient the social enterprise community has been as a result, to reacting to the pandemic. And it just goes to show that, once again, if you're interested in doing social good, then it's okay to have a business model where you can actually generate an income, but also benefit our community, which is Plymouth, and the surrounding area. So that was fantastic just to see that. Did they say that there was over 200 organizations, not one of them, has had to close as a result of the pandemic? That was amazing.
It was amazing. And I think also that they were talking about how social enterprises can move fast, they can respond to things, they can plug gaps. But I think as well is that what really stood out for me again was this emphasis on networks. How when people work together, when they're drawn together, they can change things and they can bring their strengths together and they can change things fast. And that is one of the reasons really why we're talking to the next people, the Skills Launchpad. This is something that is brand new. And was formed in response to what was happening in Plymouth last year because of the COVID crisis. It's innovative, it's amazing, it's acted fast, it's changed lives already. And Jo Lacey is the Youth Hub coordinator. So this is she's in charge of looking after younger people, and she's here to explain what they do. So Jo Lacey, thank you very much indeed for joining us. This is great to see you. You are Youth Hub Coordinator at the Skills Launchpad Plymouth.
Correct.
Brand new. It's such a brand new organisation. I've never heard of it before. But there's a story behind that, isn't there? I mean, you emerged in direct response to what's happened over the last 12 months.
Absolutely. So it all started in the summer last year when a group of people within Plymouth kind of came together and realised that something had to be done to help young people, adults get through the pandemic, and the impact that's had on whether you're a young person, whether you're an adult, and jobs and the number of people claiming benefits and things. It's all gone through the roof, so something needed to be done. So initially Skills Launchpad Plymouth was a virtual service, and now we're moving towards developing that into a physical space as well, so we can support people on a one-to-one face-to-face basis as well.
That's brilliant. Where will that be?
So we've just announced this week that we're going to be supported by Barclays. So we're going right into the heart of the city centre on the first floor of Barclays Bank.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's really central, isn't it? Can anyone just drop in there? Will you be there every day?
So initially, because we are bound by COVID restrictions, we are looking to open up on a pre-bookable appointment basis only. So if people want to be involved, they go onto the Skills Launchpad website. So that's www.skillslaunchpadplym.co.uk. They can sign up to be a member, and as a member, you get one-to-one support, and that can be face-to-face, it can be phone calls. But the beauty of Skills Launchpad Plymouth is it's a whole citywide partnership. So we're in partnership with training providers, with employers, with organisations such as Citizens Advice, with the people like The Zone, Live Well South West. There's loads of organisations all collaborating on this project. So in answer to your question, at the moment, no, you can't just drop in. We are hoping to build to that point, but we will be seeing people on bookable face-to-face appointments as soon as we're able to, and that's something we're going to develop over the coming months.
That's really interesting, isn't it, Jo? So will people be able to access this for free, or are they going to have to prove that they're in need, or will they have to pay for it? How can they get involved with getting the help that you're offering?
So Skills Launchpad Plymouth is there's the Youth Hub,
and there's the adult hub. So if you're 16 to 24, this is kind of my remit, 16 to 24-year-olds can go to Skills Launchpad's website. They can look at loads and loads of free resources. There's a huge resource bank. So all of those different providers that I've been talking about, you can find all of their information on this one website, which was really, really needed. But as I said, then you'll be able to come in and see us. These will be bookable appointments. And it may be that not everybody needs to come and see us face to face for that really in-depth support. A lot of that service can be found online, which, you know, at the moment with COVID, really, really important. But those that do come into us, again, completely free, bookable appointments, and it's a real wraparound service. So if you need help with skills and training, if you need help with mental health and well-being, which is obviously a huge thing that's come out of the pandemic, you need help with housing or knowing how you can do a training course but keep certain benefits, things like that. All of this is all in one service. It's a one-stop shop.
So you were talking about this being set up in response to the rising levels of unemployment in the city, which leads on naturally to the question of what employment is there that's available to people?
That's a lovely question. So there's so many pronged approaches with Skills Launchpad Plymouth because it's trying to tackle so many things. So as a city, Plymouth is aware of a number of emerging growth sectors, if you like, and those that are in decline. So there's so many working groups, we're involved in so many different meetings with people talking about the growth areas, which might be construction, it might be care, it might be digital sectors, maritime, marine in the city. So what we're looking to do is bring together that labour market information and what the trends are, what the growth areas are, and ensure that people that are looking for jobs are getting the skills that they need to access that training and employment now, but also build their skills so that they're going to be work ready in 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, and into the future.
What did you see happening then last year that prompted this? Because this is a bigger response to what presumably was an enormous problem.
Well, I myself have been brought on as the Youth Hub coordinator to coordinate the youth aspect of it, but it's part of a bigger skills agenda for the city. So the rising number of people claiming benefits, the rising number of unemployment, the awareness that COVID wasn't going to go away. It was quite clear early on that the people behind this, so Plymouth City Council are leading on this, but with a lot of support funding from the Department for Work and Pensions, so that's Job Centre as well. And again, it's all a huge collaboration of people that have come together to kind of address this need for the city.
So for young people in the city, what would you say are going to be the future areas of employment? How is it changing?
So for young people, they need to be aware that living in Plymouth, there are a growing number of jobs available in kind of marine and defence. We're obviously going to open up our Plymouth port, so that's going to be a huge thing for the city. Care has never been more important. Digital, as I touched on previously, but it's more about informing young people about the different options available to them. Plymouth has a wealth of options, and Skills Launchpad Plymouth is the one-stop shop where you can find all that information, whether you're thinking about an apprenticeship, a traineeship, if you're on universal credit and you're thinking about kickstarts and what are kickstarts, how do I access those? If you're looking for work experience, work placements, volunteering, training, education, Skills Launchpad Plymouth brings all of these organisations, training providers and employers together to help that young people figure it out.
So we've covered in the conversations that we've had today, we have covered loads of these things, including apprenticeships and new innovative ways of starting up your own businesses and becoming part of a CIC and I suppose volunteering to a certain extent. But things like Kickstart, what's Kickstart?
So if you are a young person that is claiming universal credit, you're working with the Job Centre, so you've got a work coach, you will be eligible to be put forward for a Kickstart. Now, a Kickstart is a short kind of work placement programme where you also receive payment towards your, God, that wasn't very well eloquented. I hope Anthony can do something with that. Right, Kickstart, let's try again. So a kickstart, if you're a young person that's claiming universal credit and you've been out of work, through the job centre and your work coach, you will be in a position to apply for kickstart opportunities. So employers, both in the city and further afield, are able to request kickstarts for a brand new position, and it's an opportunity for young people to gain really, really valuable experience in the workplace, earn a wage during these short-term placements, which will hopefully turn into a physical job.
Okay, so one of the things that I think might be a bit scary for young people going into the working world is that they're not sure about apprenticeships. They're not sure about working on really low wages whilst training, and they're worried that they're going to have to work for free. Are these areas that you're going to be able to help them to navigate confidently? Because it does seem like a bit of a maze out there.
There are so many opportunities for young people. I mean, the second you turn 16, yes, you have to stay in some form of education or training until you're 18, but that could be staying on at school, it could be going to a college or training provider, it could be doing an apprenticeship, and it's about figuring out what you want to do. But whilst there is a lot of pressure to figure out what you want to do, what you want to be, it's also thinking about those transferable skills. And what I would say to any young person who isn't too sure what they want to do next is there is no wrong way. So you're always taking steps, you're always gaining these transferable skills, and skills really is behind all of it. And all you can do is inform yourself about the opportunities that are out there, the opportunities that will be out there. And that's why this labour market insight is really important, to help young people know, okay, these are the areas where the jobs are likely to be in the next 5 years' time. So if you're leaving school and you're thinking about training, it's good to know that you're going to be able to get a job at the other side of it because these skills are in demand. But equally, if you're not interested in any of these growth areas, it's all about doing something that you're passionate about, doing something you enjoy, and thinking about all the transferable skills you get along the way, whether that's your communication skills, your organisational skills, learning how to present yourself in an interview. All of these are really valuable, and they'll transfer. And through training providers, through schemes like apprenticeships, which are open to people of all ages, it's never too late to kind of change path and find a new career, find a new job. So the opportunities are endless, and I think that's something that people should be really reassured with at the moment, is making choices are you're not going to stop making choices. There'll always be more opportunities for you to learn and develop.
So it's interesting what you say. So it's not just, I mean, I know that you're in charge of the Youth Hub, but it's not actually just for young people.
Absolutely. Skills Launchpad Plymouth is the Youth Hub, but it's also the Adult Hub. So just like I'm the Youth Hub coordinator, there will be an Adult Hub coordinator very, very soon who will be looking after those aged 25 plus, so the other side of my remit, 25 plus, and it might be these adults who are at risk of redundancy. They might have been furloughed. They might just fancy changing career, but not really know where to go. They might not realise that adults can do apprenticeships too. It's about the one-stop shop, and it's about informing them about the different training opportunities, the jobs that are available. It's the same service, it's the same wraparound care. If they need help with mental health, if they need help with their housing, what benefits they can have. You know, there's so many great organisations in Plymouth doing so many fantastic things, and Skills Launchpad Plymouth brings that all together. And myself and the Adult Hub coordinator will be coordinating the service to ensure that the people who really need it, and that can be people that have additional needs as well, all receive the help that they need.
What kind of people have you had through this system already?
So through the virtual service, we've had almost 10,000 users now. So the great news is that the fantastic resource bank that my predecessors, before I even came on board, developed in partnership, I might add, have done a fantastic job. So about 10,000 users come through to the website. So that's accessing materials on what is an apprenticeship, how does it work, who are the providers, how do I find it, information about kickstarts, about work experience, training providers, jobs, how to apply for jobs, how to do a CV. All of that stuff can be found at skillslaunchpadplym.co.uk. But equally coming through to myself, I've had really proactive people so far, actually, who've been signing up as members, getting that phone call back from myself to go through an initial consultation, and I'm having the pleasure, really, of signposting them to relevant resources, relevant people who can help them take their next steps. And the lovely thing about this project is we're also, you know, because it's a bigger funded project, there's also the opportunity for us to check back in with them in a few months' time to see how things are going and kind of monitor that journey, which is really exciting, because we want these young people, and the same with the adults, we want people to get back on their feet after a really difficult year. It's been a whole year, and it's great that projects like this exist to try and help facilitate some kind of positive outcomes for people.
Can you give me an example? I know you're bound by confidentiality, but can you give me an example of just one success story?
I've got a fantastic success story. One of our young people, a young claimant, so this is someone claiming universal credit, was working with a work coach who put them forward for the Movement to Work programme. Another great initiative to get young people into the workplace, finding out what that's all about. This young claimant is on his Movement to Work programme, and Emma Hewitt, who's the skills lead for Plymouth City Council, went in to present about Skills Launchpad Plymouth and to get some young people feedback basically on the website and the resources, because it was purely virtual at this point. During this process, this young person became so involved that they approached Emma following this and said, I really want to be involved, and came on board as a youth representative. So they joined the steering group for the project, have been involved in now developing the Youth Hub forum to ensure that that young person's voice is carried through in the development of the Youth Hub. And we are absolutely delighted with all of the work we've had with this person, and they've actually gone on to now successfully be appointed as a work coach with the job centre, and they're going to be helping us to develop this service by joining us in the hub, but also at the job centre. So from their experience of being a young claimant, they've now completely moved on, and they're going to be advising, full circle, other young claimants on how to get out of it. And what a fantastic journey that is. So it's just one example of how brilliant Skills Launchpad Plymouth can be when we all collaborate together, but equally the projects going on. COVID has been a really big nightmare for all of us, but so many good things have come about in terms of working collaboratively and in partnership, and that's really something to be celebrated.
Amazing. I love that story. That whole, it's circular, it's positive. The conversation we've had for the last 20 minutes has been so vibrant and full of positivity, and you really are at the cutting edge of something really very exciting, I think, and to hear that you're all working so collaboratively is absolutely amazing. I won't keep you because I know that you're really, really busy. Thank you ever so much for giving us a snapshot into your life in this evolving hub that looks as if it's going to benefit so many people in the city of Plymouth. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So that was Joe in the Skills Launchpad. The pandemic has hit us in many, many, many different ways. And, for those that are, have either, lost their job or is thinking or are currently thinking about what to do. If you're a young person coming out of education, then Skills Launchpad, what a fantastic opportunity to be able to again, it's all about developing those employability skills, looking for fresh opportunities, and to see a new initiative coming off the back of the pandemic, which is specifically there to help us, to help the community, and being in a great location in the middle of Plymouth City Centre in the Barclays branch. I think, for everyone who's, maybe looking at this today, viewing this today, and is unsure, wants extra help and support, then what a great resource for the city. Yeah.
Yes, and, Barclays yet again getting involved in something that's so important to the city and to the community. And what's so wonderful about it is that so many people, so many experienced people are coming together. This eclectic mix of mentors offering skills and help and advice and support to younger people, or people who are trying to change tack, or looking to different jobs, all in one place. And as Joe said, it's a one-stop shop. You don't have to go and do the research because they've already done it for you. And that wonderful sort of cyclical story that she gave, it's such a good news story. Somebody came to them and is now helping other people in such a short period of time. There are really exciting things that are happening in the city of Plymouth at the moment, and they are doing wonderful things through collaborative working, through drawing people together. The words that we're using all the time at the moment are cooperation, collaboration, networking, and who better to talk to really about that than actually Stuart Elford, who is the Chief Executive of Plymouth and Devon Chamber of Commerce. Right, so we are lucky enough to have been joined now by Stuart Elford, who is the head of the Chamber. Stuart, thank you very much indeed for giving us your time.
No problem. Glad to be involved with this fantastic project.
It is fantastic. I would like to point out to everybody that you are actually a real human being, and you are approachable and you are accessible, and there are all sorts of things that you can help people with. Just outline for us, and especially for the younger people who might be watching this, what is the significance of the Chamber? What do you do?
Oh, that's a very good question. So, yeah, I'm Chief Executive of Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce. The very strangely named Devon and Plymouth, because Plymouth is in Devon, but it follows boundaries of local authorities. We are the 6th oldest Chamber of Commerce in the world and the 5th in the UK. And Chambers of Commerce were formed by businessmen who realised that together they had a stronger voice and were more powerful. And in some respects, that hasn't changed at all to this day. So we are accredited by British Chambers of Commerce in London. I'm now going to try and point to the logo. There it is, the British Chambers of Commerce in London. And they have a direct route into government. So in terms of supporting business, lobbying, campaigning, that's our route in. I also chair British Chambers of Commerce Southwest, which is that logo, which is around making sure that all the accredited chambers for the Southwest join together and make sure our region gets its fair share. Chambers of Commerce support businesses with direct business support, but with help with networking, marketing, promotion, advice, and really as a community of people who look after each other.
That sounds really helpful. How do people actually access you? Do they have to become members, or can they just fly through your website? Or
yeah, so anyone can join the Chamber of Commerce by going to our website, devonchamber.co.uk. There is a fee depending on what level of service you want. It used to be that the price of joining a chamber depended on the size of your organisation, but that bears no relation to what people want out of a chamber. Some smaller businesses actually want more and some larger businesses don't. So that said, a lot of our events are open to non-members at a fee, whereas the events are free to members. Almost all our events are free to members.
Okay, so it seems to me as if you're sort of officially a gateway to loads and loads of businesses. You've got your finger on the pulse when it comes to business, particularly in Plymouth. We have been talking about how things have really, really changed over the last 12 months. You've been sort of metaphorically at the coal face. Can you give me an overview of what's happened, the changes that you've seen?
It's been incredible. It's been the most dramatic change in business in my working lifetime, although not all of it bad. There are some really difficult outcomes that have resulted from the pandemic, and I feel terribly sorry for anyone who's lost their job or any businesses that are really struggling. But it's also changed some things for the better. The very fact that we're doing this interview over video, not because I didn't want to be in the same room as you, Alexis, but what I mean is it enables us to have more meetings more efficiently, bring in people from all over Devon. One of my problems as a chamber covering Devon is it's a huge county and I can't expect people in Barnstaple to come to Plymouth for a breakfast meeting. However, we can now Zoom in or use Teams to hold those meetings. People have pivoted their operations so that they're doing much more online. They're able to open their market up to much wider markets. So no longer are you just thinking about being a Plymouth business that supplies Plymouth. You're a Plymouth business that can supply the world with the right digital support. And that's something that the Chamber is offering. So people have had to consider their operations, consider about what they offer, how they operate. They've had to consider the resilience of their supply chain. So just because something is cheaper from China doesn't necessarily mean that that's the sensible place to get it, because it has to go through an enormous number of checks. There could be delays, customs duties. You obviously, there might be quality control issues. So the other opportunity that's come out of this pandemic is for people to trade locally, and for doing business locally with local suppliers, reducing the length of their supply chain. And that, combined with the more video meetings, means we're reducing our carbon footprint as well, reducing our impact on the environment, which is just fantastic. And a lot of businesses have realised that this is the way forward. And finally, for this region, I've got to say, it was only on the news this morning that estate agents in the southwest have never been so busy with inquiries from outside. Because guess what? People have finally realised that the southwest is a fantastic place to live and work, and you can work from anywhere with the right technology. So a real opportunity for our region. You don't anymore have to commute into London on a smoky, crowded tube train full of infected people. You can live in a beautiful part of the region or the country, and 10 minutes after you finish work, certainly I will be on my kayak paddling around and enjoying the region.
Stuart, well, I've been listening to other people in the interviews, and one of the things that's really struck me and has come out for me is that the way that people are doing business has changed. The way that people are working together in Plymouth has changed. They feel that there's more collaboration, there's more cooperation. Is that something that you've seen at your level?
Definitely, and without a doubt. And actually, this is another good thing that's come out of the pandemic, is that we've always had a reasonably good relationship with the public sector. We now have a fantastic relationship with the public sector, where public, private and third sectors, when they work together, can achieve incredible things. And the relationships we have now are fantastic. We have working partnerships with our members who've joined together and helped each other much more collaboratively than they did before. So yeah, I think it's great. The one thing we personally are missing in the chamber is the creative collaboration work. So there's not the same being in the same room. You don't get as much done creatively, but you just have to. We've had to get around that with Zoom and other things, but we all look forward to those meetings where you can have a really good creative session and get a lot done.
I have to say, this is so, you know, what we're doing today is that we're trying to get as much information out to people who are going into jobs, or they're thinking of, you know, jumping ship, changing jobs, or they've unfortunately lost their own jobs and are unemployed, but particularly for young people who might be going into the world of work for the first time. Now, I cast my mind back to when I was 16. I know it's a long time ago.
I didn't say anything.
I'm going to ask you to do the same thing, Stuart. But, you know, what would your advice be for 16-year-old now, or young people now who are thinking about going into the world of work, which is unrecognisable from how it was even just 12 months ago?
Absolutely, and unrecognisable, and in some ways for the better. As we've just discussed, a lot of ways the world of work will be better. Young people especially are much more aware of the environment, about the need to have a positive impact on society. They're looking for roles that have a purpose, the businesses that do something with purpose. And of course, this is fantastic because it's making businesses think about their purpose. It's making them think about what impact they're having on the world. The good thing about the way we're doing things now online with the event with LTB and with their portal is that we can introduce businesses and young people who couldn't previously interact. One of the things we did as a chamber relatively recently was we got the tall ship Pelican to come to Plymouth. Of the young people who went out of it on it, many of them from deprived backgrounds who were doing scientific experiments and so forth, 75% afterwards said that they wanted a career either on the water or in marine environmental sciences, and yet they didn't even know beforehand that they could have those careers. What this event and this portal does, introduces young people to employers to start a relationship so they can see what career opportunities are available. When I left school, it was either you're going to be a doctor, a solicitor, or an engineer, and that was kind of it. I sold cars for a year and then joined the police service because it sounded more exciting. But in fact, when you look at all the exciting jobs that there are out there, some really fascinating roles. I know one of my employers was saying they're a major manufacturer, and they were talking to young people who said, well, actually, this particular young person, I want to be a graphic designer. And they said, well, you know, we employ a whole team of graphic designers. do you? They didn't know. And this enables you to share all those wonderful opportunities in your business. So I'm encouraging my members to take part and say, show young people what fantastic careers you can have. The days of the old work experience are harder and harder to give, obviously in a pandemic, but even without a pandemic, there's health and safety issues, there's safeguarding issues, there's insurance issues. It's much, much harder to give young people a meaningful experience. What this can do is bridge that gap, start that conversation, help young people to see what careers are available, and really that helps them on their step to getting into those jobs and getting jobs that will excite them and keep them enthralled and excited for the rest of their lives.
That's so interesting that you say that, because it is something that sort of other people have alluded to. And I don't, well, I am going to put you on the spot. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I am going to put you on the spot, Stuart, because you will know better than anybody else, really, which are the growing sectors in Plymouth. Which are the sectors that kids or other people can go into and have an exciting and vibrant and guaranteed career, maybe for a long time, where there is longevity, but where there are big gaps?
Absolutely. So at the moment, the very specific answer is around marine technologies, around all things maritime. So Plymouth is Britain's ocean city. There is world-class Marine Biological Association here, Plymouth Marine Laboratories. We've got MSubs making autonomous submarines. We've got Thales making autonomous surface vessels. We've got the Mayflower autonomous ship. Plymouth is going to be the centre of marine technology, marine science, and artificial intelligence around autonomy. That is a given. And there are exciting careers with a number of employers. So it's not like the old days where you go into the dockyard and you start in the dockyard and 40, 50 years later you come out the dockyard. There's a range of careers out there in that. Obviously digital is expanding at a massive rate. So I would encourage any young person, even if digital isn't their thing, to at least have basic digital skills, make sure that they can work in a digital environment. And in Plymouth, the creative industries and cultural sector is on a massive rise, notwithstanding the pandemic that's hit the cultural sector in terms of theatre, arts and so forth. That's short term, that's going to end. We are more and more being nationally and in fact internationally recognised as a cultural centre. So, but I would actually encourage young people, do what you want, do what excites you, what makes you passionate, but do your research and find out what there is out there. Find out what opportunities there are, and don't just fixate on one thing because you think it might be interesting. Look at it in the round. Look at what else is around that. The example about the graphic designers. Don't think, well, if I'm a graphic designer, I have to go and work in a design agency doing adverts or so forth. You could go and work for a major manufacturer designing autonomous ships of the future. Really exciting stuff.
Well, I think I'm really fired up by listening to what you say. I wish I was 16 again and going into all sorts of different kinds of things.
But for different reasons. I just.
One of the things you kind of touched upon there, you were talking about, going in at this sort of bottom end of an organisation. And of course, we talked to Olivia before, who now works for you, and she was talking about apprenticeships. Do you overlap with apprenticeships at all? I mean, can you signpost people to some of your members?
Oh, absolutely. So we have a very sort of disjointed system in this country where there's lots of different routes, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but you can step from one to another. So we currently have 2 Kickstarters at the Chamber of Commerce who are helping us out. One of them might become an apprentice afterwards, might then go on like Olivia did, who started here as an apprentice. Don't tell her this, it's top secret, but within 2 weeks I knew we'd offer her a job. She was just fantastic.
Sealed.
No, we'll hear this, it's all fine. No, she was fantastic, and we just knew the value she brings. And that's another thing I say to our employers: do not write off young people, engage with young people. Don't think that because they're young, they're youths hanging around on a street corner that don't have anything to bring. They bring incredible creativity, ideas. I was privileged recently to sit on a judging panel with the University of Plymouth as a Dragon's Den for entrepreneurship. If I was a true dragon with a stack of cash, I would have invested it. Some of the ideas were outstanding, and I just got really excited by it.
That's fantastic. Stuart, I won't keep you any longer because I know that you're really, really busy. It's fantastic to talk to you. You've You've summed up so many things that we've talked to other people about in interviews, even though I didn't even brief you about what they were saying. You've mentioned Kickstarter, Apprentice, you mentioned the marine technologies, digital skills, creative and cultural. You know, just listening to you, I know that there are amazing opportunities for jobs, works, apprenticeship in the city of Plymouth. It sounds a very, very exciting place to be, and roll on 2021. Thank you so much, Stuart.
Well, roll on the new world, whatever it is, and thank you for your kind words. I think it's down to the interviewer. You should think of doing this for a living. You're brilliant at it.
Oh, yeah.
And no doubt you'll be telling those young people about the opportunities in the media world, which are fantastic. I mean, we've got world-class media production companies in Plymouth. You've got 2-4, haven't we? Fantastic. Really, really exciting roles out there.
And I think more so than ever before, media skills are what we need in this new technological age where we can have conversations like that. And it's the first time I've invited you into my house.
Yes, and nice to see it. I can see you've tidied up, I'm sure. Or is it always as perfect as that?
No,
I'm not showing you where I am. I've got a virtual background because you don't want to see what's going on behind me. But anyway, lovely to speak to you.
Lovely to see you. Bye.
Bye.
So what an incredible interview there by Stuart, and it just goes to show that actually the chamber is so accessible and has so many members and has such an impact and within the city of Plymouth.
I think it's really important as well, actually. One of the reasons I really love that interview is because it humanises what quite often seems to be really inaccessible when you are going into work or you're running a business. I have to say, you know, I'm going to be really honest with you. When I set up Bowwalter Communications, I didn't really know very much about the chamber and I was a little bit scared of them. But they're not scary at all. They're there to help. And of course, you know, they're a network, and a network of people who are all there working collectively to help grow all businesses, which includes your businesses and which includes the people you employ, which means that it includes you who want employment. So I hope that people really will take away from that if somebody who's the head of the chamber like Stuart can be so normal and friendly and warm, it means the entire place will be. So they're really, really easy to reach out to and get help from.
Yeah, and that's just like, I mean, what an incredible past, 4 hours or so of doing these interviews, because I think that message of community has come across through everyone that we've talked to today. It's the fact that, yes, it has been an incredibly challenging 12 months. We've been sat at home. You and I, Alexis, have just been talking about this earlier on today, that it's almost been 365 days of pretty much working from home for a lot of people. The world has changed, but yet there's strength in community. We've heard of how, especially the social enterprises, have had to adapt and are working together. From the chamber and other organisations, that in actual fact there's a lot of opportunities opening up as well, and the world has become more digital. And just from my perspective as being the founder of LTB, and approaching the chamber and City Bus and the council, and coming up with this idea to bring businesses together online, to create that online community, that network, so that we can, as a community of Plymouth, access that network more easily at any time, any place, anywhere, and see and find out about what opportunities are available in the future and how we can change and adapt and together overcome these challenges.
Yeah, I know. And one of the things that's really stood out for me, and I'll come back to what you're saying about networking, because that is so important, is that there are massive opportunities within this city, that people are working collaboratively, they're working collectively. And, there are, like Stuart said, there are sort of 3 key areas, which are boom areas that people go into, which will give them sort of exciting careers that are going to be creative and collaborative and all the things we mentioned. The marine technologies, marine in Britain's Ocean City. Where better to get involved in that? Have a future where you're under the water, or have something to do with it. Digital skills, they're booming. creative and cultural, but also this idea that we had, and that was repeated again and again and again, that this is an enterprise city. You know, if you are going to set up some kind of community interest company, this is the best place to do it in the whole of the United Kingdom. But to come back to what you were saying and highlighting about networking, this is absolutely what has come out for me in the last 4 hours. Every single one of these people has been talking about networking in the most cooperative and creative and positive way. All of these people we spoke to are really accessible and warm and easy to reach out to, and they are working together in that way. I know that you've been heavily involved in networks. Plymouth is creating these amazing networks, but also for me, I've been running Plymouth Women in Business Network for the last 5 years, which has become, over the pandemic, Southwest Women in Business Network, which now has about 3,000 people involved in it in some way across the entire peninsula. And what we've learnt from that, particularly for women in business, is that there are 3 key things that they respond to. And that is peer-to-peer support, which is what we've been talking about, informal mentoring. People like to be looked after and held and brought on. But also having inspirational speakers, having inspirational people who they can look up to, who will stand there and say, here, I'm sharing my story and I have made the mistakes so that you don't have to. And those are 3 key things of a network. But also the one thing that we haven't covered so much, and that I have learned, and why networks are so important. Networks work because they're also a net. And if you're going to fall, they will catch you. So this amazing network that we've been discussing today, the network across Plymouth, is something that can take you into it and give you the most wonderful, creative, exciting employment career.
Well, and the network, what we've got here today, you know, on this career event, you know, for everyone who's watching this, who's attending, then, you know, kind of make sure that you sign in. You check out all of the different zones, all of the employers and the exhibitors and the providers that have produced some incredible video content, all of which is accessible for you to have a look at. Not just today, but in actual fact, this is welcome to the world of, you know, digital networking. You can access this this online career event at any time in the coming weeks, in the coming months as well. And you don't just have to watch the videos. You can actually, we've got a panel of career advisors that are all accessible via the forum. So feel free to ask questions, kind of engage with that network, engage with those employers and those providers, ask questions, and have a look on the opportunities page as well, and see what job opportunities are available as well within the city. And from my side, I love expeditioning and I love travel. I've just got to get this in, but like no plan, you know, survives first contact on an expedition. And the number of times that even just getting my idea off the ground, so it's at 27 I said, you know what, I'm going to ski to the geographic North Pole from Canada. I was living on North Hill in a shared house, and you know, my office was my bedroom and my laptop. Nothing's changed there. You know, and you know, I had this idea and I managed to put together, you know, I joined a team and managed to ski from Canada, raised an awful lot of money. But look, if you have an idea, you know, then just, you know, take that step forward. Do a side hustle. We talked about that, you know, from the university. You know, there's a real opportunity here available at the moment. Yes, we're in a, you know, the pandemic. The pandemic will come to an end at some point. But if you've got an idea, if you've got a passion, then we've heard that you can take that passion and generate revenue and an income from that passion. And I'd encourage everyone watching and being involved today, then to take a step, and whether that's going back and retraining through the many providers within the city and the region, or you know, taking a step and maybe having a go at starting a side hustle, a business, a social enterprise, and giving something back to your community, because you never know where it's going to take you as well. So so that's my final thought, and I'd just like to say a huge thank you, massive thank you to Alexis as well, for helping deliver all of the interviews. Of course, to Plymouth City Council for making this possible, the Chamber, all of the people that have been interviewed today, and for all of the exhibitors and providers who have contributed to our multiple different zones, and have put in the time and the effort, to provide this fantastic resource for all of the city, for all of the young people across the region to be able to access. So what a day this is. Yeah. So yeah, great day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.